Yesterday, he was a simple guy passionate about computer games. The girl wondered why he suddenly wanted to invite everyone to this place. Today, he decided to go hunting. At first, he simply planned to collect stones, but his patience was quickly exhausted. Everything has turned since he tried one hook. From that moment, his life went in a completely different way. It was a game in which everything turned around the workout of magic girls. They were the main characters. Only girls take part in this game. In half a year, it has already been downloaded 10 million times. The developers are constantly adding new heroines, and players spend huge amounts of money on it. The last new girl is a real beauty, but this month he has no money left. As always, the chance to get something really cool is almost zero. Iokur has spent hundreds of thousands but still does not stop. Its purpose is to win the heart of the Moonthons. Finally, a box appeared in front of him, which exactly had an incredibly rare item. He was convinced that this time the moon will fall out. But instead of a girl, he saw a strange scroll with an invitation to another world. As it could be predicted, he was again waiting for the hook. There is only one drop left. He hopes it will not be a magic card. It turned out to be a real invitation to another world. It can be used to go there. Heihachi joked that it was like a ticket to a global server. It would be interesting if it really was. But what really is it? No one knew. Suddenly the scroll played bright light, as if in it an incredible force woke up. Suddenly the hero found himself in a completely new, unfamiliar place. Looking around, he realized, it is not a dream. Everything that happens is actually reality. At first, everything seemed unrealistic, as if it were in a dream. But it is time to master yourself. First, now you need to find a place where you can hide. Staying in the open place is a bad idea. If a predator suddenly appears, it is almost impossible to escape. Snakes or even leopards may occur in the area. Looking around, Heihachi suddenly noticed something scary. A real goblin appeared right in front of him, and without any hesitation attacked. It doesn't matter what it is, but it is definitely not good. The only way out now is to run as soon as possible. Feeling fear, he quickly pulled the tree, trying to understand what just had happened. Finally managed to escape. The head does not fit that such strange creatures really exist. Did I really get to another world? He remembered that invitation and understood. This is really another world. Then he got his phone out of his pocket. Panic began. The main screen never opened, but managed to enter the case with the girl. What I saw there was amazed. Initial level. There are no units or things here. Everything is quite empty. I couldn't understand where everything went. He told himself that he should not panic. The only clue was the phone. The main thing. Not to lose it. He was a newcomer, so he had to get a guaranteed item. The system really generously awarded it with some useful things. It was difficult for him to hide his admiration. However, Chan's moon has never been obtained. But he came across a thing that was not among the girlish things. One of the advantages was the opportunity to understand the local language through the translator. But for that, it was necessary to pay the price. This was badly hurt by the head. Although the head was split from pain, the guy realized that it was not important. He has to go forward. Everything succeeded with things, and then with creatures. He was offered to call Neuralifania, and he immediately adhered to it without even thinking. Suddenly sparks jumped out of the phone. A real combat helmet materialized next to him. He settled on a tree branch, and at first she hanged in the air, and then fell on the ground with a roar. He landed quite sharply, although it was his first attempt to manage it. She was a little ashamed, but had an important conversation that could not be delayed. It was not easy to start. The guy tried to introduce himself, but she lured him to work first. There were a few more to Goblin who was nearby, and they all attacked the guy together. You need to remain calm. Open the inventory. Choose a weapon and a shield. When everything is at hand. The girl won her enemy lightly. He did not suspect that it was so much power, and she only said calmly, "Now your move." He was scared for help, but the novel only smiled. She believed that he would be able to cope. It didn't work out. However, surprisingly, I did not feel pain at all. She said that even if he was beaten many times, he would still stand. Heihachi won Goblin. After the fight, the girl suggested returning to normal affairs. She introduced herself as Noralfania, but asked to turn to her just to Noral. She suddenly fell silent that she was worried. He grabbed her for his cheeks, reproaching that she did not even give him preparation. This is where it all started. This is how my new life in the world of gacha began. She was very tired during her trip. He noted that Fania was breathing hard. He thanked the armor, but felt so exhausted that he almost lost consciousness. He was not used to it. She confirmed with a smile that there is not enough endurance. They have already gone on the main road and decided to stop here for the night. She suggested using one of her subjects. This is a simple camp for camping. After use, it just decomposes and disappears without leaving the debris. Very convenient and environmentally friendly. Heihachi also noted that he liked the decision. He was enthusiastically looking at the tent. They were warming by the campfire, and the guy finally gathered with thoughts to ask questions. She was curious about what he wanted to find out. She wondered that it was in this situation that attracts his attention. She explained that this world was not at all like her native. She was called here to help this world. He became wondering where she guessed that he was not from this place. It turned out that the call of the Ununs received some of the memories of their master. He asked if there was a restriction on the duration of the call, as if under the terms of the contract. In fact, you can keep it as much as you like. There are no restrictions on time. However, the number of creatures that can be caused depends on their price. So, when Noral is already caused, he can no longer call anyone else. The rules remain the same as in the game. At the beginning, the limit is available, 15, and Noral takes away all these 15 units itself. If the system works in the same way, then with each new level, the number of available units should also increase. The girl looked at her master. To avoid unnecessary difficulties, she suggested using one of the subjects. She glowed with joy, eagerly waiting for the dish. He looked at her in surprise without expecting that she would be so happy. For her, eating is a real holiday that she always waits with greatness. Lunch happened unexpectedly. After everyone ate, the rest of the food immediately became ashes and disappeared without a trace. He could not understand why it was so delicious. Even she couldn't think that something would come out of the hook, and even more so delicious. Next, you had to find a safe shelter. It would be great to get to the city at least on the cart, but it was no hope. He slept firmly as the Noral came quietly. The girl asked if she was not sleeping. The guy immediately decided that his turn came to the duty, but she just ordered him to rise and not complain. It seemed to him that she wanted to stay with him at night. In fact, she was already interested when he finally got up. Forest monsters began to appear around the camp. They suddenly attacked them. Even orcs were among the attackers. If he had to fight only with the goblins, he would be able to give himself advice. But there were two types of enemies, so he had to share the forces. He was engaged in the goblins, and the orc was opposed by Noral. She realized that it would be difficult for her to defeat two orcs alone. Therefore, she asked the magician to deal with the goblins faster. He was injured, but he almost felt pain. Thanks to this, it was easier to move. The monsters were amazed at his weapon. It had extraordinary power. All of them were passionate about the fight. It seemed to him that it was not good for nature. But now he has the opportunity to help Noral. Sitting on a stone, he noticed that she had already coped. It surprised him, because she said earlier that she would need help. Obviously, the enemies were not as strong as it thought. He pinched her for the cheek. Heihachi immediately apologized, but he felt inside he even liked it. She asked not to do so. Such enemies usually do not appear here. The guy returned and looked at the novel. He asked her to lift and take it. She thought it looks pathetic. He expected a cart, but everything was different. She grabbed his hand and quickly said that he was in a hurry, because otherwise they could lag. The locals did not believe that they were faced with the same guy who defeated Goblin yesterday. Some of them reported that they were almost in place. They received only 10,000 coins, but most importantly, everyone got to the place safely. They were sincerely thanked for their support and help. He remembered that all the things that fall out could be sold in the store. So tonight, they will stay with Noral at an expensive hotel. The girl already imagined how she tasted a delicious dinner. In the meantime, he suggested that she buy something useful. During the walk, she came across a restaurant where Yaktor was preparing. He decided that small costs were not very burdened, because he had money. But the real essence was completely different. In his thoughts, he constantly returned to the same question: how to get magical stones to play in Gosh. But I never found where you can exchange stones. I really wanted to play, so I pressed on the screen of the phone, trying to find something. They took 2 numbers, and it cost 4,000 coins. Heihachi was impressed with such a large sum. He hoped to save money, but now he had almost no money left. If they decided to sleep in the same room, it would cost only 3,000 coins. But the guy was confused, even imagining that he would stay with the girl together. They decided to remove 2 numbers without food. But on the face, Noral showed that such a choice was not to their liking. She did not deny if they had to live in the same room. However, Heihachi tried to explain to her that it could have some meaning. She confidently said she wanted to be with him from the morning to night. In the end, he settled on her proposal, and agreed to take one room for them. He guessed. Norel tried to save money, then to eat something delicious. She noticed that he was considering something carefully. He looked at their statuses and suddenly realized that something was not happening. The only difference between them was in one level, but their characteristics were different. As if between them, a whole abyss. In her hands there was a very strong equipment, and it caused her pride. She laughed sincerely, because the effects of equipment seemed completely meaningless. The game developers seemed to joke well. Her equipment was really very powerful. Noral also said that Escalurgla has similar properties. During the battle, this item emits golden light. And Hichachi, meanwhile, dreamed of a regular sword and shield. He wondered how to charge a phone here if there is no ordinary charging. The girl explained that in their world, devices work through the magical energy that is in the air. In places where many monsters, such as black orcs, the phone is charged faster. But the main thing is to be strong enough to survive in such dangerous places. She worried about everyone, as if she were a mom. Heihachi could always turn to her with any question. He asked how to go home, but the girl did not know the answer. She also had no idea how to find magic stones. He realized that he relied so much on her in vain. She suggested that she rest, but before that, he wanted to ask another question. There was a dilemma. Who should go to the shower first? He is so not easy with money, but take a shower costs 300 coins from each, so decide for yourself whether it is worth it. To be able to return home, you first need to find a reliable way to make money. She advised to join the Adventurers Guild. The next day, everyone decided to check everything in the guild, and Norel at this time went to the shower. Leaving the bath, she was just charming. He immediately rushed into her beautiful figure. He came up when he heard it calling him by his name. He thought that she should not hide her face. She said that girls should not just show their face. He laughed in response, and she noticed it. She became unfortunate. The next day, registration in the guild was successfully completed. Now Heikachi will also be able to go quietly into the shower. For them, both are a new beginning, because they just got their first task, hunting. At the same time, they were presented with adventurers. The color of each token shows the owner's rank. If the token is lost or broken, you will have to pay 1,000 coins. He appealed to the novel not to spoil the token, but the girl did not like such distrust. They went to the forest near Brune. There were many orcs and goblins in this forest. At first they saw no one, but it changed quickly. Suddenly, a large group of monsters appeared in front of them. Puritano was running through the clouds, and Norel suddenly exclaimed that it was time to start hunting. The monsters were getting more and more, as if somewhere in the forest were their hidden point of appearance. Suddenly, something black and very dangerous came out of the trees. It was a real rarity. Such a creature is infrequent. Even from afar, there was a lot of pressure next to him. He does not look like ordinary enemies. But Norel just waved his sword, and the head of the black orca flew from her shoulders. The girl was delighted when she learned that the black orca meat was considered a real delicacy among gourmets. It is very difficult to kill the orca, but it already imagined a delicious dinner. At this time, Hayakachi paid attention to a new notification on his phone. It also attracted the attention of the Norel. It went closer to look. Magic stones became even more. Is it so unexpected? Can it be somehow related? It turned out that the rarely the monster, the more stones you can get from it. To get more stones, you need to win enemies that have different levels of rareness. When it was dark, they still did not stop and continued their hunt. It took a few days from the moment Hichachi began his life by the adventurer. Now his greatest desire was to find the stones that needed to play in the hook. Every day they went into battle with the Black Orcs. Thanks to these battles, his rank rose from G to E. When the stones have accumulated 50, the moment came to launch Karna Hahi. He felt excitement, expecting which hero would fall this time. He dreamed of getting a Chang Luna. But Norol reminded him, in this world, the characters appear only at ultra-rare or higher. All other levels bring only objects. She was genuinely happy with the chance to get Auror, but immediately warned, the likelihood of this is quite low. It was only the second time since he found himself in this world. Heikachi felt he was overwhelmed by the excitement. Mike Zess fell a super rare character, but not the one he hoped for. He sought to get so he decided to try again. But where is the button to buy something? Everything is too harsh in this world. Norol congratulated the hero on the fact that he won such a rare prey. In addition, there was a weapon among the trophies, which she had long dreamed of. But Heihachi remained disappointed again. Excalibur appeared in front of him. The system proposed to combine two identical weapons, and it agreed. There was no such opportunity in the game, but everything is clear. If you want to get UR, you will have to collect stones again. He had a thing that looked expensive, but in reality she was not worth anything. He promised a novel that would give her something interesting. She wondered if she could somehow use this item, but eventually confessed. She just likes it because he looks cute. They went again to look for precious stones. The next day we received an important assignment. We had to accompany the team. It is necessary to carry out accompaniment through the forest near the bistro and get to the village of Rubel. Heihachi wondered what was the forest. It will take about 2 days to get to the village of Rubelk on foot. It was his first expedition, and although the experience was not enough, with the hook subjects all the difficulties managed to overcome. There were only 3 of them in the team. All already had the status of registered adventurers. In the event of monsters, a familiar green adventurer of D rang will come to the rescue, the same as during the fight with the orcs. However, Heihachi did not want him to fully hope for the help of others. While the novel was near them, they believed that everything would be fine. Meanwhile, she was happy with her plush toy. There were almost no people around, so the guy decided to use one of the items he received the day before. He made it possible to find out the status of another person. Comparing the power of the man with his expectations, he saw that the figures were lower than he thought. It surprised him very much. He remembered that there was a bonus when you look at the woman. But which one could no longer remember? Indeed, the system even determined the size of the breast. Noral immediately realized that something strange was here, and she wanted to look too. And the guy was red. Suddenly, they heard an unusual noise. It was much louder than the steps of the orca. The man ran up to them and shouted to all flee. Suddenly, a huge monster appeared before everyone. He had only 1 horn and 1 eye. This is a true cyclop, a real devil. The man warned that it is better for them to flee, because in order to win it, you need to be at least a fighter of rank C. However, Heihachi remained calm. He had nowhere to run. The monster was very strong and had a lot of energy. If the battle is delayed, new enemies may appear. Heihachi asked Noral if she was ready for it. He wondered whether to make such quick decisions. However, Noral already thought everything and had his plan. Thanks to the boosters, their protection and speed have increased significantly. They boldly rushed directly at the monster. Noral used the inspiration. Her all abilities became twice as strong as a whole minute. Her combat force has already exceeded 9,000. Even the Cyclop would not stand in front of 1 stroke. But he survived. What he was very surprised by Heihachi. His forces were almost exhausted. Even Heihachi could complete the battle in this state. They were already celebrating their victory. But suddenly the monster stopped, as if it had frozen. And that's what Noral had previously warned. Cyclops from acceleration gave up the ground. She managed to pull the boy out of trouble. But what she saw afterwards just shocked her. The monster finally showed his true shape. Noral had no helmet on her head and she suddenly shouted loudly. She hid, did not want Heihachi to see her in that condition. He stretched her helmet, and the girl immediately scattered and hurried to turn to leave. He touched her shoulder, sincerely asking for an apology, but she suddenly cried. She suddenly felt acute pain throughout her body and instinctively pushed him away, although in fact he did not hit her. What is it? Maybe it is a side effect of her ability? If Noral cannot move, this is a serious problem. They should go to the medical center as soon as possible. Heihachi helped Noral to prepare a place in the tent, left it there so that she could relax and finally calm down. He sincerely apologized for what happened to her face. She told him that it was not his fault. He wondered why she was so persistently hiding her face. If he does not want to open up, it is her right, but he would still like to know the cause. It may be important to both of them in the future. She said she couldn't see her. Then she added that if he drinks a rabbit potion, she quickly recovers. When someone sees her true face, she immediately becomes uncertain and can no longer speak confidently. He was amazed at how much voice means for her. She also explained that for a real knight, a voice is an important part of its essence. It is good that Okuridono became proof. She considers herself a little strange. But if it concerns him, he only laughs. For him today, she was especially feminine. He was surprised to see her but realized a real living person stands in front of him. As soon as he said it aloud, he immediately regretted and asked to see as if he had not said anything. But the girl hugged him firmly and promised to stay near the end. He warned her that he could not jump so sharply because it could be painful. She really was scared and bounced back. The next day, Noral finally recovered, and they moved quietly, without meeting any obstacles on their way. They happily reached the village of Rubelk, successfully accomplishing their task. A message was received on the phone. They should immediately return to the rune. He showed Noral a new strategy. On the phone screen there was a message about a share that gave a double chance to get UR personalities. She was not surprised because she decided that she was just another advertising action. But he specified that this time the chance to get really doubled. The event will last 10 days. If you try 100 times, it is possible to get 2 UR Nagarods right away. However, every day you need to have 50 magical stones and can only be reached on Shakhtar. They usually find only 5, even if they hunt for 10 hours. Most of them manage to get 10. But Heihachi came up with a way to increase this number to 50. He promised that he would tell everything right now. And she once said that it would always be near him, right? So now she just had to agree and follow him. It frightened her a little. They stepped on a rocky trail and headed further, in a thick forest, leaving behind familiar neighborhoods. It was there that it was possible to find out the place where the monsters appeared. They found the point of their appearance. Previously, they had to go far from the place asleep and spend a lot of time hunting. And now the battles follow one after the other right here. Efficiency is now greater, because the novel is capable of destroying enemies with one blow. She intended to move to another place of rest, but he denied and insisted they would stay together to hunt the two. After all, when they change the place, it reduces their chances of success. It is always more convenient to have a few points of the Renaissance, so you do not have to run back and forth constantly. They have already found 5 needed places. The hunt was successful, but Norel did not feel joy. She had to face the orc again. Already on the first day she felt fatigue. Then she realized, without her, this plan will not come to life. Heihachi pleaded not to stop and continue the battle, because he believed only to her. He assured that he would fulfill her request, and then she agreed. A long marathon began, in which everyone hunted the black orcs day after day. 6 days have passed, as there is a continuous battle. For Norel, this has become a habit. Every day she fought with the orcs and destroyed them. She could not live in a moment without killing the next orca. Her such perseverance has already begun to annoy Heihachi. Even on the 6th day, it covered obsession. She explained that she likes the opportunity to fight. However, Heihachi noted that she really wanted to say something more. He asked her to calm down, reminding them that they were now in the city, and she would behave too roughly even with people around. She no longer imagined her life without the desire to destroy orcs. He suggested that her return to the hotel. She really needs rest. Hunting took her a lot of strength, and even in her dreams she continued to mutter something about orcs. There are 105 stones left. It was becoming more and more difficult to move. But now Heihachi could no longer ask Norel to do the impossible. They realized that they have reached their boundaries and could not move on. However, they decided to try again and moved forward on a rocky road, choosing another strategy this time. That's the penultimate day. Now Heihachi has to go to a new point on his own, and the novel will remain working in his usual place. But the girl was worried that a friend would go. It was really risky. He explained that if they hunt separately, each by itself, then it will become easier, and it is not so tired. Otherwise, they will not cope in these 2 days. She agreed, but she was still shitty. It was dangerous to stay alone. A black orc was already waiting for him, ready to attack at any moment. That's the end of the last day of this campaign. Finally, they managed to collect all 500 magical stones. Just in the middle of the path, Kaikachi Carnival began. 11 chances for 10 attempts. He kept breathing, worrying what girl would appear this time. The first attempt failed, but he did not despair. There were still 9 attempts ahead. During the second and third attempts, the most rare objects fell to me. Real super scarves. They were convinced that after that, the hero of the highest level UR would be sure to appear. The next super rare fell as it was supposed. Heihachi hoped that at least 2 UR would happen to so many stones. It was unfortunate, because the 5th, 6th, and 7th attempts brought me only very rare objects. Norel advised a little rest, but he assured that he still had strength and could go on. The 8th attempt again did not bring anything interesting. He only shrugged, they say, and should be. There are only 2 possibilities ahead, and the desired UR never. Yes, there are 2 more attempts left. Hopes slowly disappeared. Norel very much wanted at least one of the cards to be extremely rare. Only the super rare card fell on the 9th attempt by Heihachi. It was terribly angry, because the chance had to be twice as big. How is it possible? Norel tried to support him. There was another opportunity ahead. She sincerely believed in his success. Heihachi realized that everyone had posted for these 10 days to reach Gachi. However, for the sake of Norel, which was always close and believed in him, he decided to take the last step. Again before the eyes the same image. It brings it to despair. Heikachi did not understand why he was fighting at all. Will it all end? He completely lost the faith in victory. If he had such an opportunity, he would have returned at the moment when everything was just beginning and would give all the magical stones back. Norel reassured him, saying that they were just not lucky today, but next time everything would work out. In addition, they have 6 more stones left. He couldn't believe that you could get UR on the first attempt. But she still decided to check it in her own experience. Everyone in life has such moments. It is from them that all originates. Once upon a time, she also crazy because of UR. This made Heihachi think about their own behavior. Suddenly, a character appeared. She couldn't even believe her eyes. It was a real miracle. Heihachi, without holding back joy, hugged her with tears in his eyes. At this point, he was offered to call a mysterious character. Norel asked if he really wanted to call her. It turned out that she is a very strong magician with UR, and even pretty, although she does not have a clear character. But Norel reassured. They say, "Do not worry, she is nearby." They agreed with her, although her character was quite unusual. The girls smiled and joked that not everyone had the honor of being here, just from the ground, and the guys still regretted that failure. A new girl appeared in front of them. She realized that she was called. Heihachi was going to introduce everyone to each other, but the girl did not answer anything, so the guy politely asked her to name his name. She smiled and said, "You already know who I am. It's fine, right?" Her confidence surprised everyone. Heihachi realized, she really wants to become part of their team. He asked, "Why? Is there any benefit of this?" It was difficult for him to believe that she was really able to give up, to retreat late. He won't stop. It will also become part of hunting for monsters. Suddenly she said he was sweet. Of course, it was only a joke. Her brother is an interesting guy, so she decided to join them. She asked her younger brother to take care of her. It was officially reported that Heihachi and Norel were able to pass a marathon and all the work tests. They remained alive. There were 2 of them once, but now someone else joined them, and the group turned into a trinity. They introduced the ceiling to the guild administrator, presenting it as a new participant in their team. Now they have a new participant. The ceiling stated that she was still, even if she had to live together in the same room. Heihachi did not deny, but since he had many coins, he suggested to settle the boy and girls in different rooms. The girls did not like it. They asked indignantly why the guy should get a separate room. The ceiling would like a room for 3. It was not surprising for her, so she wondered in Heihachi whether he did not deny. Of course, he did not mind anything. Not every day there is an opportunity to spend time in the room with 2 magic girls. However, he was a little awkward in his soul. A man among women? It has laughed itself, they say. He almost crosses the forbidden border. She looked at him and thought that his eyes were so sincere and kind that it was just unfair. But the guy just smiled and said he did not deny. She promised him that he would show. He doubted in vain before contacting her. He did not immediately stop what she was talking about. She only quietly confessed that she just waited for the opportunity to share a room with him. The ceiling gently stroked the novel on the hair but suddenly asked her to stop. The ceiling noted that the new hairstyle suits her very much and suggested to remove the mask. Norel immediately denied, but the ceiling insisted that she would not resist. She rejoiced in watching them friendly. Heihachi was a little nervous before meeting from the ceilings, but now realized that it was useless. After completing an overview of gotcha items, he decided to see what the characteristics of the Steely. He began to explore her ability with a phone. As it was worth expecting from the sorceress, she has a lot of mana, but there is almost no protection. Her UR label looks incredibly strong again. Heihachi also looked at a section with sizes. He did not like that her bust was small. He pretended not to notice anything. However, the ceiling immediately felt something. Heihachi quickly hid the phone, fearing that she could see what was on the screen. He lied that he was just looking at things from the hook. The boy suddenly became uncomfortable and even a little hot. But the girl felt that it was not all true. She noticed that he had a good physique. Heihachi was embarrassed and even blushed, because he was ashamed of her attention. She thought that he apparently had an image on her, and told him to remain calm, because she did not pay attention to his actions recently. Norel noted that others are well entertained without her participation. The ceiling smiled and called it to join the company. She said that if Okuradono got into trouble, then she would also support him. She thanked her for help, but asked Heihachi to stay because she became a little embarrassed. She asked where they were going now, but he answered nothing. After the events that night, he could not find peace and fall asleep. His silence began to annoy the ceiling. She advised to enter the Adventurers Guild first. There, she needed to show her magic for registration. As soon as they came, everyone around them immediately turned their views. Heihachi could not understand why everyone was looking at him with surprise. Meanwhile, they were met by a woman at the reception. He said that today, the ceiling became part of their team, and they came to register it as an adventurer. The administrator immediately drew attention to the fact that the ceiling is a magician. The woman was initially confused, but quickly mastered herself and gave them shape. Heihachi was surprised because he did not think that the magicians were so rare. The administrator frankly said that she saw a magician for the first time in her life. The situation was a little inconvenient for everyone. Heihachi wondered. In fact, he did not notice people in the city. He was explained that most magicians now serve in the royal army, and those who remain in the city and operate in groups have no lower than a rang. With every minute, more and more people began to pay attention to them. The ceiling did not like that her sign of different color than her brother. She was explained that they already have E level, and she is only at the level of G. The administrator had no right to change her rank without good reason. Such rules were established. Everyone was regretted with regrets, but the ceiling only missed. She felt alien to others. People around continued to look closely. Some of the men had already been angry, as if Heihachi somehow offended the girl. Suddenly, she decided that she would be able to quickly get up. She was already ready to take up any task. If she needs to get rank E faster, she does not hesitate to destroy everything around. Everyone was scared. It seemed that this time she said quite seriously, "The problem is that without F Ranga will not work higher." Such are the rules here. Some of the audience asked what Heihachi looks like. He explained that all this was obtained from the hook. Therefore, the equipment and armor are extremely high quality. Yes, it is very noticeable, but the most important thing is their characteristics. Some people noticed that with glasses, he seems smarter. But in fact, he does not wear them for the sake of it. Thanks to these glasses, he looks quietly at the phone. No one can see what he does there. You can still determine how big girls are. Heihachi with Neural was curious with interest when the ceiling was showing their magic. Suddenly, terrible monsters appeared around there. The ceiling realized that the moment came to show what it was capable of. They will be convinced of their own eyes how strong the UR magician. She was the one who attacked the first. In just a few seconds, she cut off her heads all her enemies. She asked what others thought. Neural just muttered that it was funny. But Heihachi felt as if she was hiding something. He wondered if she could at least a little. It turned out that it is one of the easiest to be covered. After that, she wanted to show another spell. From the next blow, the monster was pierced through. She squeezed the water drops directly in the air and sharply launched them forward. Neural was immediately alert. It seems that something will happen now. Indeed, her anticipation did not fail. The ceiling was preparing to use its strongest technique. The boys also realized that they could become a target, so they began to ask her. At that moment, Heihachi realized what the true power of magic was. It is able to easily deal with whole detachments of enemies even at a distance. The ceiling really has a strong weapon. Now that she is with them, their team has enough strength to cope with any enemy. As soon as the table rose to the F rang, it was immediately congratulated on the achievement. She suggested taking the task of E-class right now, and Heihachi decided to postpone it later. Another idea slept. What if they went to Sting? In the royal capital, during his last visit to the Heihachi shop, accidentally heard something interesting. He asked the seller if he could buy all the goods into him. I added 2 more bags to that. The merchant agreed, but noted that he could buy everything if not one restriction. His store could only take 4 bags at a time. They were advised to go to Sting. There are many shops in this city that willingly buy different things. In addition, there is a dungeon. There is a strange dungeon near the capital, where you can find rare monsters, and rumors to find a lot of treasures. Remembering the rare monsters, Heihachi realized that this was a great opportunity to obtain many magical stones. The seller has heard that even adventurers with rank C have not easy, and Heihachi now only at E. He needs to become stronger. With the ceilings and all the current research team, the dungeon has become quite possible. The ceiling did not have anything against, because in the capital is exactly full of shops with beautiful clothes and various cute little things. Neural also agreed. She was sure that there was something delicious there. The road will be difficult, but this is a great opportunity to find even more magical stones. So without delay, they decided to go to Sting. They joined the long rope of the carts moving to Sting. Heihachi prepared his own carts. It seemed that you would have to go on the road with others. A little tight, but what you do, you need to put up. Together with them from Bruna, a breach left. The path to the capital sea leg passed through several villages, and the trip took 10 days. It's been a few days since our journey began. Hikachi was missing on the road, so he suggested playing in the stone rod paper. However, this game quickly came and became bored again. He was very concerned about how the Noral feels. She sincerely said she wanted to go home, but there was nowhere to return. Earlier, it was fascinated, and now she feels only emptiness. Then the ceiling advised, "It is better to just cry, so it can be easier." But Noral was convinced that such behavior of lady was not a place. She felt nausea again. It was confused. She asked if the ceiling could help her magic from nausea. But the ceiling just sighed and said the treatment is not its strong side. Some have suggested to stab her a soothing so that she would calm down a little. But Heihachi decided that it was too much. In the window, he suddenly saw something unusual. He wondered, will these adventurers be able to cope with themselves? Of course, they have a rank C. But if something dangerous happens, time may not be enough. Support will never hurt. However, in his opinion, the monster seemed weaker than the Cyclop. However, Noral has not yet woke up. The ceiling explained that her sleeping pill is so strong that the usual methods will not work. Then Heihachi took the elixir, who received from the Hach. As soon as Noral came to her senses, he told her that it was time to go to battle. She moved without fear where the battle was going on. The ceiling thought maybe they really need to completely disperse in different ways. Those whom they managed to save could not believe their eyes. Noral was so easily injured by the Minotaur that everyone just froze, but most impressed all the magic of the ceiling. Noral understands. You need to run away from here. She quickly warned the boys that it was time to run. Meanwhile, the ceiling struck the monster heavily, and he could not stand her attack. A loud explosion came, and the ground under his feet trembled. The feeling of magic was truly amazing. Heihachi quickly noticed, the ceiling is not at all like a novel. She uses magic clearly and demonstrably, as if she are swaying her abilities. It all started after the Minotaur attacked us, and all this happened just while traveling in a van. They headed to the capital of the kingdom, the city of Sting. Finally, they got their destination. The capital impressed them with its grandeur and scale. Heihachi dreamed of going to the Adventurers Guild immediately. But Noral was still weak. If she felt quite bad, she could stay at the hotel from the ceiling and relax. She assured that she was all right with her and does not want to leave Okuridono. However, it was difficult for her to stand, and she almost fell. The ceiling reached out to her potion and asked to drink persistently. The taste was just disgusting. But she worked so much lately, so she deserved a little support. They finally reached the Adventurers Guild, who was in the very heart of the capital. They said they had just arrived from Brune. The registrar asked to show tokens. The ceiling also wanted to register. She said that each guild has its own tasks, so you need to update the documents. Seeing the results of the team, the administrator was surprised. These participants did not look new. She apologized for surprise, quickly registered them and said that they could now start taking the task today. Other adventure seekers began to whisper among themselves. Heihachi realized that he could no longer change something. All attention is drawn to the ceilings not only because of its magical abilities. It is also extremely beautiful. But the ceiling does not like when she is told compliments, and asks not to admire her appearance. One of the adventurers approached her. She was amazed that he turned to her directly. His name was Daegis. He headed the team of Class B. From the first minutes of communication, Heihachi felt dislike for him through rough manners. When he learned that she was a magician, he asked if she would like to become part of his team. But the ceiling immediately said that she was now in another team. Daegis was surprised to say that he had never heard a magician to join the Erang group before. He thought that she was apparently convinced by an attractive appearance, and just cheated. His suit was immediately apparent that Heihachi did not resemble a real adventure seeker. He advised her to leave this team of newcomers. If the ceiling agrees to be with it, then its rank will grow very quickly, and it will be the best choice for its future. We must admit that this proposal was very seductive. She stopped for a moment, thinking, but then she refused. She became uninteresting. She chose the path of the adventurer because she wanted to stay with her brother forever. These words were deeply moved by Heihachi. He became awkward that he suspected her. The ceiling said that these two are stronger than Daegis, so why turn to the weaker? Heihachi was discouraging and sincerely apologized for his words. When the ceiling heard someone mocking her younger brother, she was engulfed by a real rage. She did not tolerate such an image at all. Daegis thought she was just joking, so he offered her a duel. If their team wins, the ceiling would join them, and if they lose, they will fulfill any desire. The ceiling almost agreed, but Heihachi stopped her in time. He bowed his head and sincerely apologized for everything that had happened. He asked that he was not taken away from friends. The ceiling could not understand why he did so. But Heihachi was sure. You can't just use it as if it were a thing for bargaining. He only hoped that she would be able to forgive him this act. It is only through her, because of his road girlfriend, is ready to endure humiliation. If it is just empty words, so be it. But to be ashamed of all, this is a completely different matter. Then Heihachi suggested that instead of a duel on the ceiling, put a couple for 1,000,000 gil. Dodge's first thought it was just a joke. I couldn't believe that an adventurer with E-Rang has a whole million in his hands. But it was even more strange that Heihachi did not even go to flee. He confirmed that he has this amount. Dodge agreed to accept the challenge because it was a matter of honor. He still had something important. Tomorrow the rumor of the duel will fly the whole city. The duels between adventurers are quite familiar to the city, such as Sting. The ceiling felt guilty, but Heihachi immediately reassured her, saying that it was not necessary to worry. He already had a strong desire to answer. She remained in her mind. He asked her not to miss because of this beautiful face can lose her charm. She waved, saying that it doesn't matter. But Heihachi was well aware of how important it is to him. Noral immediately noticed how genuine he was in his feelings. Although it remained calm in appearance, he broke everything inside. He already looked at his status. Although it was inferior to the main characteristics, it had the advantage thanks to equipment. The main thing, there is always a novel and ceiling next to him. With such girlfriends, they will surely win. This time the victory will be behind them. The battle began. Heihachi was stunned. Thousands of people watched him gathered around him. He was confused and did not know how to behave under such pressure. A duel was announced between the adventurer Dajus and the Okur of Heihachi. Dajus gave advice. The main thing is not the opto. He wanted to show what a big difference between B and E wrong. But suddenly someone hit him on his head. Some of his team called him a fool. Everyone realized that he was only trying to spoil the life of others. Friends asked Heihachi for the actions of their leader. The girl was angry with Migaru for doing. She honestly acknowledged that the whole situation had arisen through him. It was clear that these people belonged to the Dajus team. He explained that he only tried to help the ceiling because someone cheated on it and suggested that she become part of their team. But Kira didn't even want to listen to him. She was upset because everything turned into a play. If they defeat, they will be able to return their rates. Heihachi realized that all the agreements on the battle had already been cancelled. If they lose, she asked to accept the reward. Heihachi realized that these people did not hope for his victory. But suddenly his gaze fell on a new ring on the finger. He did not see it before. The ceiling told that this ring was presented to her by her younger brother. She said that if it really was, she would never remove her. However, he was very different when he gave this thing. Hearing his words, Dajus was upset. He did not even suspect that they were so close. Heihachi quickly hurried to assure everyone that it was just a misunderstanding. But now Dajus cannot afford a defeat. Now he will fight for full force. The ceiling was lost due to such a reaction. Now everyone will decide that Heihachi is a weirdo who suggested marrying a child. Gossip can also affect it too. But in fact, the ceiling had nothing mind. On the contrary, it is even good if everyone thinks so. Now he will no longer be able to invite her. Isn't that the perfect ending? It seems that the battle is about to begin. The Dajus team enters the arena. As expected, Dajus had many supporters. In his group gathered a warrior, a tank, an arcade, and a priest. The perfect, well-coherent team. Everyone noticed how popular it was. And it is not surprising. He really had an attractive appearance. The teams will not compete with each other, but will combine the strength to fight against the monster. Ogre rank S. Sand in the clock is calculated as if a timer. The team that will win the victory will win. The ceiling was surprised that there would be no direct battle, because adventurers were not allowed to fight each other. Everyone is ready, and the preparation is complete. The battle with Ogrom has just started. The first on the field came the tank, holding its big shield in front of him. The priest helps his comrades, and the archers, along with the warrior, come to the enemy. All work together, harmoniously and confidently as a real team. The sword in their hands beats exactly in the target. Everything around has become tense and serious. But the ceiling has already lost interest and began to be bored because she did not like to wait long. Their team has just finished the fight. It took a few minutes, but the ceiling was sure that they were able to do it much faster. Dajus proudly said that they were in front of them. He is wondering if others could cope with the enemy so quickly. One of the audience was doubted whether they would win at all, and for his doubt immediately received another slap. The ceiling felt dissatisfaction and once again apologized to Heihachi. The second team came to the arena. It was the Ochre Heihachi team. They have not yet been known, they just came to sting. Heihachi was terribly frightened by the atmosphere of the place where he had to fight. Everyone believed that this team was defeated very quickly. It was said that Magina would inevitably move to the side of Dejus. Heihachi understood that no one is looking forward to winning. Everyone is getting ready. From this, his stomach began to ache. The girl came and cheered him. He has a reliable team. They are not going to play with Noril and Ceiling. The Ceiling promises to surprise everyone with their skills. She stretched his ring, showing her. Meanwhile, Heihachi undertook to check the weapons and armor that he got out of the hook, preparing for a fight with Dejus. His whole team received a new equipment. Now they were completely prepared for battle. It was decided that the Noril would take a blow to himself, and as soon as they help it, the Ceiling would strike a final blow. They immediately took up their plan. Something unexpected happened, the presenter exclaimed, because Ogre climbed into the air instead of the attack. Now Heihachi's turn to act. The moment has come to determine the winner and hand him 1,000,000 branches. Seeing the girls themselves coped with the situation, he realized that he didn't even need to help. Darius recognizes his defeat and gives a bag with a win. He agreed that the girl was right and sincerely apologized for her sharpness. Heihachi finally exhaled with relief. After the battle, the enemies shook each other's hands, recognizing respect. Dajus took a step towards and suggested to reconcile, but Heihachi felt that this gesture was not sincere. When they shake their hands, it became clear. There is a hidden struggle between them, and the confrontation lasts not only in the arena. The Ceiling was confused and could not understand what was happening. However, she noticed that these two were really similar. After the battle with Dejus, everything changed. Heihachi still remained at the level of E, and in the end he acknowledged, in fact he is still weak. It was not easy for him to compete with the monsters, because in no battle he has not yet participated. Noril thought he just lacked experience, because he was an ordinary person. But Heihachi denied. It is not just about experience. They have not trained for a long time. Then Noril realized what he was leading to. They talked about Gotch. Ever since the Ceiling appeared near him, he no longer used Gotcha. Since they did not go hunting, he has only 2 magical stones. In case of danger, this will be their vulnerability. He cast a look at Noril. The crucial moment has come. Initially, they planned to collect all magical stones. Suddenly, Noril grabbed the Ceiling by her hand and began to flee. Heihachi rushed to run after, but something suddenly forced the girls to stop. And here the novel was already standing right in front of him. He said that he predicted this situation in advance and left a special lighthouse. Thanks to this subject, any of the group could be in the right place. He advised to start searching for magical stones. For the safety, he activated the strength to keep it under control. But the girl did not agree. She did not want to experience these difficulties again. He asked why she resists so hard. He made her think, what would happen if they find themselves in trouble and have no stone? It's better to prepare now than to regret it. As they collect the stones, they will become more and more in new equipment, so the hero can become stronger. Isn't this a wonderful idea? The Ceiling agreed with that. But Noril was annoyed even more than such support. Heihachi put her hand on her shoulder. She can see that she was very tired. He suggested to move all the cases tomorrow and asked the Ceiling to lock the Noril. Noril was very difficult to cope with it. Even the Ceiling noticed how much the girl was frightened, although she wanted to act at the beginning. Noril was surprised when he learned that in order to get 25 stones a day, only 600 monsters need to be defeated. So he decided to talk to her at least a little. She has long tried to earn forgiveness from Noila. Heihachi also regretted that she had fallen asleep, but Noril was not offended by him. And it annoyed him even more. She stated that Okuridono is guilty of everything, but you won't do anything. Now it was only necessary to collect magic stones, because there was no chance. To calm down, she spoke a little with him, because his demand was simply incredible, as much as 600 monsters a day. The girl apologized and could not understand how the Ceiling convinced Okuridono. Meanwhile, Heihachi has already thought of where he would go on the next trip. Today they will move with the help of a magic carpet. The Ceiling was not sure whether he would cope with this task, but he was offended because he had a pilot certificate. The whole crowds of monsters were already waiting for them. All together attacked one weapon. It was much more efficient than fighting each one. Hunting when using mass attacks is a real find. Even if the monster is rare and well protected, it will not be able to hide from magic. That is why the attack on the square is a great solution. One lure all the enemies and collects them together, and the rest simply achieve, so you can save the most mana. But there is also a drawback. If you get angry Heihachi and Nora, poisonous scorpions can be a serious threat. Since rackets are not able to neutralize the poison, all hopes are again placed on Noril. It upsets her, and in despair she exclaims, "But he is a demon." But Heihachi reassures her, explaining that they should try another way and go elsewhere. Indeed, they left the northern cave and went forward. In the forest is full of terrible monsters, so Noril refused to go there. Next comes with a very strong magical protection. I have to give up. There are no places similar to the northern cave. We need to continue the search for something else. But if they find nothing, she will take herself to lure the enemies. They were again in the northern cave. Heihachi asked what happened because she was against a return earlier. But Noril calmly replied that it was her own decision, and no one forced her. She did not want her own selfishness to hurt others. If you leave everything on Heihachi, he will, as always, risk everyone. Therefore, she suggested joining and acting together. Okuridono also began to notice her and pay attention to her. He accepted her proposal. Moreover, they do not need to hurry. As soon as they get tired, it will say it right. Noril could not understand how the ceiling managed to persuade him. This guy was so good that it even frightened. But the ceiling just smiled and said it was a secret. At that moment, Heihachi remembered past events and unwittingly shuddered. But the case was not in any punishment. He was reminded not of being distracted and continued to move forward. Hunting continued, for the 35th magic stone in the collection. Heihachi was worried about whether the novel could survive the poisonous needle bite. But she assured him. With a new level, everything was much easier. And indeed, let him better monitor the one that constantly spends his manu. Long stay in the cave suggested sadness. Heihachi mentally said goodbye. Well, go. But suddenly he saw something quite unusual. The tea festival has finally started. However, Heihachi did not stop calling the event Carnival Heihachi, and Noril immediately warned. This can lead to another misery. The ceiling just sighed. It looks like a brother is just not happy. This time, he decided not to overload himself. He made 5 approaches 11 times, and Noril and ceiling were tried twice. Noril is amazed. Okuridono did not become greedy. She notices that he has become older. The ceiling is surprised, but Heihachi confidently says that it is enough for the chosen to try only once to get the most rare thing. In a moment she smiles and adds that it is only a joke. Both girls tried the same, so let them pull out the lot too. The first hand is reached out by Noril, uncertain, but with hope in the eyes. He asks why she didn't let him pull the first. Last time, he managed to pull 11 rare cards at once, and it was 10 times in a row. If this time he does not work, the girls may finally understand his condition. Suddenly, a joyful cry of victory is heard. As expected, she is truly happy. She pulled 2 extremely rare things at a time. Heihachi can't believe his eyes. Now the turn of the ceiling. But for some reason, it is noticeably nervous. She also pulls out a super liquid thing. Heihachi tries to reassure himself. Apparently, such finds this time do not happen so rarely. Both girls already have 2 extremely rare jewelry, but they have not found that special ultra-liquid ring. Heihachi sincerely believed that this time he would be lucky to get an ultra. I believed in my luck. You will see. I'll prove to you what a real hook is. And the truth is, in front of me appeared an extremely rare chest with a rainbow glow. Heihachi tried to hold himself in his hands, but the Noril was sure. He was boiling with excitement inside. The ceiling also noticed his unnatural smile. He pretended not to hear anything. The moment has come to open the chest. Inside, Riga Aritra was a special weapon designed for a Noril, but she already has such a thing. Heihachi's face became completely different in an instant. The girls froze on the spot. Although he was silent, his look was so scary that everyone was not alone. The ceiling was quietly asking him not to be angry, because she did nothing wrong. Both girls took him into their arms and hugged firmly. He was then asked, "You said that you would only have 5 attempts, so why your hand reaches forward again?" He said, but nothing, just let him complete the case. But Heihachi does not stop. He is sure that his next attempt will definitely give another ultra. He needs to try again. Noril exhaled, realizing that nothing was changed. Everything went too far. He apologizes. He cannot stay in front of the temptation of the hook. Altogether touch the screen. And here he received Holy Scaly Mantle. He is delighted. The girls confessed. This time it was its stubbornness that won. That night everyone slept firmly without worrying about anything. Heihachi woke up and noticed that the ceiling was sleeping near him. She confessed that she dreamed of falling asleep next to her brother, because she feels lonely very quickly. I already wanted to call Norel, but the girl suddenly covered my mouth with my hand. She did not like that he was trying to expel her. The guy insisted that she did not joke and returned to her bed. She was surprised. Even now he doesn't seem. She only dreamed of spending one night with him and falling asleep together. He still agreed. When she so sincerely asks, it is difficult to refuse. Just sleep together. There is nothing wrong with this. In the morning, both of them find a novel. Like a mom, she grabbed the steely and began to boil her. She asked that I did not disappear so suddenly. The ceiling was pleased to enjoy the arms, but it was upset because the most interesting moment just started. Today is the day off. After a long time spent on hunting, he decided to rest. Norel rejoiced, but did not understand how to spend this day. The ceiling invited me to go to her shops. I understand. This is a great opportunity to spend time together. Heihachi stretched them a bag of 5 gold coins, a whole 500,000 branches. The girls were so surprised that even the eyes were rounded. If necessary, he will always give, but asks not to waste everything without work. He said he would remain because he has important things. It was immediately interested in the ceiling. She began to think what he was so busy. He remembered how he met with Deus. The girls were surprised. He really goes to this outward brazen? But Heihachi explained that the materials they receive from these weak creatures are very appreciated among adventurers. He wants to organize the official sale of these materials. In the meantime, the girls decided to just walk the streets of the city, enjoying a walk. But suddenly it turned out that the Noral really had no plan. The ceiling was surprised, because recently her girlfriend was so decisively forward, and suddenly she suggested looking at that store. Norel replied that she had enough clothes. However, the ceiling immediately noticed that her closet had only simple things. The brother still does not perceive her as a girl apparently because of her clothes. Such words were slightly affected by Norel. When the girls entered the store, the saleswoman quickly changed her face to a friendly and gladly greeted them. The ceiling thought that the whole thing was in a strange outfit of Norel. However, Norel herself could not understand what the reason, and the ceiling was most annoyed by her mask. She decided that the day of change today has come. Together, they will pick up a new image for the novel. However, when the ceiling suddenly dissolved the door of the primary, the novel was much scared. She felt uncomfortable, but the ceiling was sure that she was fitting. The ceiling said, "It is better to remove this mask." But Noral wanted to dress without anyone. The ceiling suggested raising her head at least a little. She had never seen her face before, but she really wanted to see at least once. There were only 2 here, and the nozzle hesitated a little, but still agreed. She showed her face for the first time. The ceiling was very surprised. She did not expect to see the one at all. Suddenly she stopped. The ceiling praised her, saying that the dress was sitting perfectly, and she added that the novel is really extremely beautiful. Norel intonation became different. She wondered if her brother saw her face without a mask. The ceiling replied that yes, it was only once. But it seems that he did not say anything then. He probably was surprised. Noral also thought so. Then she cried, and he reassured her, so she could not notice how he really looked at her. But even after that, he remained as friendly in dealing with her. It has sincerely pleased her. However, over time the ceiling realized that something is strange with it. And Norel was no longer ashamed and expressed her thoughts directly. Now that the ceiling is nearby, it is easy for her to stay. But as soon as she came about a walk without a mask, she immediately took her into her hands and covered her face. She's so caller, though. She took it again and wore it. The ceiling suggested, maybe at least try to work out without it? But here she suddenly paid attention to something else. It seems that Norel led it further to the next store, where the sweet smell came from. So they were in the store with different sweets. Norel did not stay. Her eyes shone from admiration, like a baby. The ceiling thought that without a mask, the girl looked so charming. It was a real whole, lively, emotional, and incredibly charming. At this time, Deus was surprised to watch Heihachi, who calmly pulled many heavy bags. Deus had no idea that the secret is in a charming bag. It was his team that defeated the Deus's detachment, stepping on all the mooring people step by step. And this is just Fighters E wrong. The whole guild learned about it almost instantly. The association decided that it was time to raise the level. The reason was not the presence of problems, but on the contrary, their exceptional efficiency. The head of the guild stated that such a team should not stay in low rank. Heihachi guessed. It can bring a lot of hassle. The girls had nothing mind. Norel also agreed, the main thing, that they did not have to return to the northern cave. They agreed to take on the case, and they were soon instructed to accomplish an official task. To get to the dungeon, it took a rank not lower than C. Heihachi suggested raising the level. Norel completely forgot about the existence of a dungeon. Initially, it all started with rise to D rank. The first task is to deal with the Jabez. As soon as we stepped into the mud, as suddenly the monster's head emerged from the mucus. But Norel said he was very sweet. Heihachi grabbed his head. That's another fiction. Norel claims that she does not invent anything this time. Even the ceiling agreed. Frogs really have their attractiveness. And Heihachi, on the contrary, was not satisfied. He was confused and did not know what to do next. He did not want to dive into the swamp. Norel suggested trying to freeze the monster, but Heihachi explained that the new monsters would no longer appear. Therefore, he appealed to the ceiling to destroy the mud. She acted without thinking. The magic fire broke up, and all the mire shuddered from a mighty impulse. "Wow, this spell is so powerful!" the girl exclaimed, not hiding her admiration from what he saw. But suddenly she was in doubts. What about this terrible mess? Looking around, she thought everything was reminiscent of the real end of the world. And here the muddy suddenly crawled. It looked even more horrible than he could imagine Heihachi. Norel immediately ceased to be interested in what was happening. She already swung to hit again, but the guy stopped her, said that the swamp could disappear altogether. Then the girl decided to change the strategy and directed her hand at the enemy. However, the blow was avoided. The enemy quickly bounced to the side. She has ended. It is difficult to hit when this enemy jumps from place to place all the time. The boys have already realized that the enemy is not going to give up or just die. To explode the whole pond would be the simplest solution. But Heihachi stopped everyone. He said he had his idea. The ceiling cheered. "Forward, brother. Give him a puffy even on my behalf." Meanwhile, the swamp baptism managed to release an unpleasant stench, trying to confuse everyone around. But he was noticed quickly, and he could not finish his plan to the end. The ceiling firmly decided, after everything he did, she will not give him just to escape. It was she who put a point in this battle, causing a decisive blow. We have overcome the enemy. For the usual task of rank D, it was a real battle like a little war. She said with confidence that she would be able to accomplish the C rank task even faster. The next day, they gathered and went to the ruins. The task is to win 10 minerators. This one that lies in front of me is already the 5th in a count. With every clash, the boys gained experience and became stronger. Norel was sure that the battle would end quickly. The Minotaur did not seem dangerous. The 6th was already fallen. But suddenly a stranger appeared on the way. A big one, and seemed threatening. The guy was even inadvertently scared. What did he forget in the C-rank sector? His blow caused more than 3,000 damage. Heihachi did not even listen to the continuation of the battle, but ordered everyone to retreat immediately. But Norel decided otherwise. She wanted to leave the monster. She ordered the ceiling to flee without delay. If the enemy shifts his attention to her, there will be a disaster. In her look, the fire of anger was brightly burning. Heihachi rushed forward, immediately moving to the attack. Norel knocks the enemy off his feet. She has time to save him and checks it immediately whether everything is fine with him. All is well, he assured. He just did not recognize the enemy. Norel realized, the whole thing is these sparks. They disappear at the moment when it strikes. She agreed to distract the enemy's attention on herself, so that others had a chance to strike a decisive blow. Finally, the monster lost strength. Right now is our chance to act. Heihachi clicks on an explosive token, which he received from the hook, and suddenly a real explosion is heard. The enemy is instantly destroyed. Power explosions one by one struck the monster. It seemed that the victory was already nearby. Heihachi was glad, because everything succeeded. However, he was suddenly attacked from behind. He did not have time to dodge. Norel was very scared of him, but could not throw Estelle without protection. She told her friend to move away, because while nearby, the magician would not be able to shoot. Estelle quickly ran to Heihachi, excited by his appearance. But he smiled and said that everything was fine. I drank the potion, came to my senses, and asked what happened to the monster. Norel pointed in silently with her hand to the other way. The ceiling hit him with magic that flashed like a real explosion of anger. A cold void was frozen on her face, and a bright pulsating red aura was playing around. It seemed that the girl was no longer the one that was before. Heihachi trembled. Did she really use that technique? The magical skill enhanced its strength, and the protection of the enemy has declined significantly. Even Asterios, which was a real giant, it would not be able to withstand. Having defeated her enemy, the ceiling approached Hikachi. "Please do not make me worry even more," she said. From that moment, he promised himself never to angry her again. He sincerely apologizes. The next time it is necessary to hold back emotions and not use abilities at once. It seems that both Estelle and Norol have the same problem. After using abilities, they are very exhausted. So Hikachi decided to go to the report himself, and the girls left to rest. On the way, he decided to look into laid lights. But when the door opened, it froze. The novel lay on the bed, without a mask, busy with her games. She scared and screamed loudly. She thought annoyed. Why did he return so quickly? But in response, he just wondered why she was without a mask. She said that he sometimes wanted to take off the mask, but she asked if he would not be against if she saw her real face. Estelle training really helped. Now it has become a little easier. I asked where her girlfriend. It turned out that it was better, and she went to the bathroom. Heihachi asked me what I did myself. She looked at the toys they had just purchased. The guy turned away and offered her a little more. Let him accept this as a reward for his courage. But she was confused because his answer seemed abusive. It seemed not seriously. He first decided that it was all the simple little things. But for her, these things were true. He did not fully understand her feelings, but she sincerely thanked him. At that moment, Noral swept a strange and restless feeling. She knew her time. She dropped the mask and confessed that she had not felt such happiness for a long time. However, she noticed herself. Something in her changed. They are going to go on a new journey. They are ahead of the maze Hagen, an unusual dungeon, which hides rare treasures and live incredible monsters. Finally, the group was raised to the rank of C, absolutely deserved. They gathered together and went on a journey to explore the mysterious dungeon. Inside the room was much brighter than he was imagining Heihachi. It seemed that the walls themselves were filled with life and breathing quietly near him. The floor and walls glowed with mana, and while we were still looking around, a monster suddenly appeared. Slime. Heihachi is convinced that it can easily deal with him on his own. But Mucus suddenly attacked him. Noral warned, "It is impossible to underestimate the danger, even if it looks harmless. It is acid mucus. He corrodes everything he touches, so it's best not to approach." When Heihachi learned that mucus could dissolve objects, he decided to introduce the girls to each other. But something was wrong here. They thought, did he suddenly not read the instructions? They studied everything together in the guild, and he just reposes on some application for determining the status. The girl just sighed, hopelessly. She said that by the 10th floor, we will only meet mucous membranes, so we went on. Having reached a new level, the hero noticed the appearance of another type of mucous membrane. On the 9th floor, mucous membranes were waiting for them, which could explode from the slightest movement. Heihachi suggested fighting them from distance. They quickly realized that the chain reaction began and decided to run away immediately. Finally, the 10th floor. Here I expected to meet a true strong enemy, but instead, we came across a strange mechanism with an arrow that was located on top. It's like a dead end. If the ceiling is not mistaken to move on, you need to turn the lever. It's like a regular switch. Noral, smiling, suggested trying to click on him. When the arrow was turned on, it returned and something started working. Everything works like a roulette. You never know what waiting for the door. Either you will come across a room with monsters, or find a valuable treasure. However, nothing happened. Maybe it's a dead end? And suddenly a strange sound was heard in silence. Suddenly the entrance closed, and the mana began to thicken. Everyone was alert immediately, preparing for further events. It seems not the usual door, but the entrance leading to the other floor. They seem to be at the start again. If mistakes have made, you will have to start over. Heihachi decided to try again. The team again went on the road, which she had already passed. They have already been mistaken dozens of times. Fatigue increasingly made itself known. They have already come back here at least 40 times. Heihachi reminds, it is important not to give up and go forward without losing faith. The doors look quite different. It's really the ones I was looking for. Finally, we got to the room where the main boss is waiting. It was difficult to get here. Estelle is now preparing the strongest spell. This time they will be able to defeat him. But Heihachi immediately realized that this mucus is much more powerful than usual. In fact, for this level of difficulty, at least 2 rank fighters B. Estelle proposed to look at the enemy's forces first, and then decide, to fight or to retreat. When they opened the door, a huge monster stood in front of them. His abilities were even higher than Asterios, and they have virtually no strength. Heihachi believes that it is better to leave, because their task is to explore the dungeons, not to die here. Girls support this opinion because it is most important for them to return alive. The Gajeno maze was much more confusing than everyone thought at first. Hikachi understands that there is no road back. We need to find the way to exit. Noril notices that Heihachi thinks again about Gach. He himself does not see another way. Estelle jokes that you will rarely meet such a guy who is not interested in the hook. But Hikachi says, he is actually a fan, just they have a really cool equipment, but the team still lacks another participant. They are looking for a person who can treat at a distance. A priest is needed. And that is all difficulty. To hope for Guha, it is like trying to drag the turtle. There is almost no chance. If you are not lucky, you will have to endure a real hell. In such a situation, Hikachi decided, as soon as the event begins, he will use everything he has. All that is expected from him. Estelle responds immediately. But he warns, if you choose this road, you will have to face a test that is more frightening than a magic stone. Ahead of the real marathon Gachi. Before the event, no attempts to get prizes. He decided to return, but his action caused dissatisfaction with others. She asked for Noril. She wanted to work a little. It was for that surprise. When she reported Estelle that Okuradona was strangely behaving, and he just sighed and said, but again something came to mind. Okuradona actually heard it all. He cannot understand what is wrong with him. Therefore, he appeals to Noril to teach him to fight, because he wants to become at least a little stronger. Earlier, he always trusted all the work of girls, even when it was necessary to collect magic stones. Now he wants to help them in everything. She praised him for diligence, but confessed that she had never taught anyone before. She agreed to start from the beginning. Today, they will give all their strength to achieve the best results. Hikachi seemed to be very tearful for training, but the Noral was sure not to find. It is the shelter of eagle warriors. The same monsters with whom he had previously had trouble. He should fight them, and the girls will simply watch from the side and tell you what to look for. The only requirement, it can only use a sword and a shield without any other equipment. He was even frightened, because he will need to remove the holy cloak. I felt lonely and did not imagine where to start. It turned out that he would have to face the main enemy, an eagle warrior. I was stunned because I was counting only on ordinary sparring. However, Noral, without hesitation, decided to immediately move to a real battle. They called a monster, and the girls gave the boy confidence and supported him. The eagle immediately rushed into the attack, demonstrating its unique skills. I felt acute pain. One eye was injured, and a deep cut appeared on the leg. I asked Noril how she evaluates my progress. Thank you for watching this story. The guy was barely holding on his feet, but the girl decided that it was time to start a second round. He did not even suspect that he was still not over, and he had a continuation. Noril gathered all the mistakes she saw, and now knows what to correct during the next fight. She noted that he looks too narrowly. It is necessary to monitor not only the weapons, but also to watch the movements of the whole body of the enemy. His protection is so fragile that it is not possible to wave the sword so, as if it will not work. In silence, the guy wondered if he was mistaken by choosing this person to talk. But the girls noticed that he had already learned to beat the blows better. If you train next, it will become very strong. He was afraid that he would have to train daily. But Noril clearly explained to him, if not done regularly, there will be no success. She was always on his side, so she asked him to try his best. The guy promised to do everything possible. Suddenly he noticed strange traces. It seems that someone was attacked. It turned out that it was a defenseless rabbit, which was severely injured. The attackers did not even have time to understand what happened, how their heads flew from their shoulders. They all won in a moment. When Hikachi saved the animal, the novel had cooked it. He said that he could not be acting at his own discretion. She immediately apologized. Her body was rushed forward as she noticed the baby. The baby was seriously injured. She sought to save him. Heihachi examined the wound. It was very deep. He gave her a valuable potion from Gachi. Noral wanted to make sure that it could really be used. The guy saw that the wounds were very heavy. She promised that she would not cause anything evil. The miracle happened right away. The potion began to work instantly, like real magic. The girl was glad and told the rabbit to be careful. But he never left, staying nearby. Estelle quickly realized that he was accustomed to her and no longer wants to leave her. The guy was going to give up, but only looked at the eye. He explained that they live in the hotel, so they cannot afford to keep pets. But the girl did not give up. She lifted the rabbit in her arms and extended forward, as if inviting him to look at him more closely. His gentle look was so insightful that even Heihachi could not resist. So, a new satellite joined the team. Meanwhile, the big event that should happen is increasingly approaching the Hichachi group. Estelle is happily spending time with a new pet, having a real pleasure in his presence. Norel realized that she was very attached to him, and she began to seem so cute. The rabbit was called Moffat, and soon learned that he was bringing good luck, as if a real mascot. They say that if you see it at least once, luck will surely go with you. Estelle, with a smile, said it was time to arrange a carnival. Finally, the long-awaited campaign began, as much as 33 hooktube on Tess SR. The main win is a priest that everyone has hoped for so long. Estelle first decided that the banner of the brother was not liked, but in fact, Hichachi became very fond of him. If he guessed that such an opportunity would appear, be sure to stock up with more magical stones. Norel began to understand why he looked so sad. We decided to start. Everyone was given the opportunity to try their hand twice. They have 902 stones. This is enough to make all 33 attempts. One roar costs 3 times more than if you do 11. Norel felt anxiety after Heihachi's words. But Estelle did not hesitate and decided to try the first. This time it is ahead of all. Its passion and energy capture everyone. It was because of her that they have many different things. 33 attempts are a completely different level of tension. When no ultra-liquid object has never fallen, it is felt by a real flower. Finally, they are happy. The same priest appears that they were waiting for. Although she was a little sorry for the money spent, the guy said she sincerely appreciates her courage and determination. Frost runs through the body, and it is difficult to say whether it is excitement or fear. Norel noted that the path was unusual. Maximum rarity is when something is very, very rare. Although the attempt failed, Heihachi tried to reassure everyone around, but Norel noticed that he actually worries the most. There are so many attempts ahead. It is possible to obtain a rare object. Why not try luck? He is too confident in himself. He hopes only for his own fortune. And here is this moment. It finally happened. Without any exaggeration, this is a real victory. After that, he even began to sing. But Norel suddenly gets another weapon as Estelle. Okuri was so surprised that he even kept his breath. He was helped quickly. It was only a little current as he started breathing again. It turned out that he had another copy and 2 attempts. Now, everyone is waiting for the novel that is lucky. She felt the alarm, noticing how close everyone was watching her. She, like everyone else, got many different things. The guy tries to reassure himself, thinking that he has another chance. Norel sees how a fatigue is hidden behind his smile. Despite the incredible luck of Nola, they were still unlucky. Heihachi had already begun to worry that their chance could be lost. If he had at least some credit card. Norel smiled and joked. Maybe it is worth giving him off to chance? Estelle began to hesitate. Can it be done? Heihachi just shrugged and waved his hand, as if he said, why not? The rabbit, as if understanding, tilted his head sadly. But Estelle was convinced that a talisman called Moffat would definitely bring her luck. The Fluffy quietly touched the paw on the screen. This is a real miracle. They managed to save the priest of Shizuka Alvi. Apparently Moffat really brings good luck. Heihachi was glad to victory, but in his soul he did not leave anxiety, because he had to give up even a rabbit. He did not understand what was happening to him. Can a person be so bad? If it was not for the help of a rabbit, they would not be able to do it. Finally, the day that everyone was waiting for. The priest finally became part of their team officially. It happened earlier than everyone thought, and that was the merit of Moffat, which was really annoyed by Heihachi. He realized that he would not have succeeded without the help of a rabbit. Now they were already looking forward to calling them. Norel remembered that she was called that way. Heihachi confessed that in his world he never happened to him, because it is extremely popular. Only the idea of meeting her frightened him. He finally rang the phone. She introduced herself and said she was pleased to meet the owner. He froze in place when he saw her. Squeezing his fist, he confidently introduced himself, keeping his proud look. Norel noticed that he had treated them differently, but Heihachi only replied that it was not true. Estelle did not like it how she behaved, although in fact the priest was even better than she thought. He could not take his eyes off her breast. The priestess was noticeably embarrassed, and Estelle began to annoy it. Suddenly she asked why he was looking at him. After an uncomfortable pause, the guy suddenly lied, saying that he just considered her pendant. Norala seemed quite suspicious. He finally calmed down and apologized to forget. Everyone called their names, even Moffat. I could not resist this cute muzzle. She was too charming to refuse her. I called it Alvi-san and politely asked for permission to review her profile. The girl realized that it could be uneducated, so she said goodbye. She called herself a Sue, and the guy in response asked to turn to him. I watched with sadness how they agreed, as they would call each other. She looked at her profile and realized that she was quite ready for battle. Hearing this news, she felt true joy. Finally, everything began to change for the better. They have a special prayer that is able to expand the healing area and help several friends at the same time. Thanks to this force, the team becomes stronger and more cohesive. Haichi understands it well, but her breasts were just as he imagined in his dreams, not small. At first he was frightened, thinking that the angry Estelle was going to him, but she approached Sisa. He guessed that the priestess did not tell him all the truth. She felt inconvenience, and so she did not understand what it was about. In fact, she did not hide anything. She was invited here. Norla acknowledged that there was no point in suspecting her without evidence. At the end, everyone realized that Sisa was right, and sincerely asked for her. I looked at my brother with an excited expression, as if I did not even trust myself. The priestess reassured me, saying that all is well. I noticed that this Estelle is not the same as others. It is not surprising or suspicious. She feels that she has a golden heart, and it is easy and nice to talk to her. He hopes to support Shisako. Neural promised to do everything possible. She asked to take care of her. Stella realized that they would sleep together with her brother. However, the brother chose the floor instead. Sisa could not put up with this, because others went to bed on beds. She called him to herself, because again there were difficulties with housing after Shizuka joined them. Hayakachi was already going to rent another room, but everyone decided to stay together, so as a result, he had to shoot a room for 4. He noted that men and women should not sleep in one bed, because it is not the best solution. He asked her to look at the situation prudently. Norel joked that he could pinch her for the cheek. Estelle decided to postpone the idea of a common dream for some time. Instead, she offered another option. He had to confess who he would choose if he had to spend the night with only one person. She thought that she had no chance, because she joined only today. He wondered if you could not answer the questions, but Estelle strongly stated that it was impossible. He was confused and did not know what to say to not hurt anyone. After short thought, he decided to choose Nuro. She merged because she considered herself the least feminine among all others. The next day, Sisu approached the Eye and apologized to him, so they had to wander the city in search of a better fate. One of them said not to worry. The guide remembered that another hook event would soon take place. Everyone agreed that the day is perfect for becoming even closer friends. Neural said that the best thing now is to just enjoy this moment. Heihachi regretted that he did not find the usual clothes for the priestess. She reassured him by saying that all is well. The girls may have shared things, but Neural doubted that her outfit was fitting. First, you need to buy a gift for Shusuke. The priest was a little ashamed and behaved tight. Heihachi assured that today they can afford everything they want. And Norla already imagined a mountain of various foods. Everyone was surprised why she suddenly talked about food. During the shopping, they all had a good time, as if they were completely forgotten about fatigue. She is already tired of thoughts about how many all around Mafi's attention. It is said that only looking at him, people felt better. And this seems true. In fact, this happy rabbit seems like an amazing creature. Not far from him, the guy stumbled and fell. She ran up quickly and immediately healed his wounds. The guy immediately felt relief. Everyone around the priestess was observed with delight. She advised him to be careful, and the boy thanked her sincerely for his care. It was this behavior that hoped from the priestess. Heihachi added that Shizuka is really a very good person. Lunch has finally come. Neural happily stated that today she will taste as much as she wants. Shisua sincerely thanked the opaque for this day. This was enough for her. She felt happy, and Heihachi was confused, hearing her candid words. In general, this idea belonged to Estelle. He recalled that when Estelle called, no celebrations were made. It seemed to him that she was just worried about Sisuke. Therefore, thank you. The girl could not understand something, but still thanked the opaque too. He was convinced once again that Shizuka is a real priestess. Once upon a time it seemed to him that she was suspicious, but now he understood. These were all fictions of his imagination. Suwar is a good person, and Heihachi is sure that she does not hide anything. The girls noticed that the crowd was gathered nearby and decided to get closer to find out what was happening. Everyone was invited to participate in a duel against a strong man. You had to pay 5,000 branches for participation, and if you win, you will receive as much as 100,000. Estelle suggested playing in arm wrestling, but Heihachi firmly abandoned this idea. Whatever he tried, he could not defeat such a powerful opponent. Then she dared to try. The guy clarified if she was really ready for it. She sincerely admitted that she had the strength, because she is a priestess. Hayakachi was worried about whether everything would be properly. He hoped that she would not exaggerate, as Neural did, because she did not like it at all. The man was happy because he thought he was lucky. Today he would be able to shake his hand to such a beautiful girl, and she only asked him to be more gentle with her. Her face changed immediately. She tensed, and the rest did not even have time to realize what was happening. Everyone wondered, what is wrong with this girl? And suddenly there was an unexpected victory. Shesuva surprised everyone in the hall. She was genuinely rejoiced in her victory and how easily she succeeded. Heihachi was stunned. It turned out that she was much stronger than him. Estelle may have suspected it. Their next purpose was the destruction of 10 stone goblins. Shiwa was looking forward to her first task, and everyone agreed that it was necessary to complete it as soon as possible to increase your rank. Faudi still need to get used to wearing this armor. Estelle advised him to remove the helmet, saying that it would be more convenient. He received this item from the last Kacha, and decided to try it. Look. How cool looks, right? He addressed the girls. They immediately agreed that he would definitely not get lost among others. Although the field of view has become smaller, the protection has improved significantly. That is why he was entrusted with the role of a tank. Because even against ordinary goblins, it is better to remain careful. He rushed into battle first without even thinking. The goblins attacked, but did not even realize that this armor would be so strong. He allowed Kabul to start an attack. He did not have enough experience in real battles, and Neural understood it. Even with good protection, it is better to avoid strokes, not take them. He thought that after they destroyed 10 goblins, it's time to go home. But here Neural stopped him and said quietly, "Look back." Suddenly, rare goblins began to appear around the characters. If you win them, you can get magical stones. He ordered the girls, no one should remain alive. Everyone should be destroyed until the last. I tried to save Shisuke, and the monster at that moment struck me a strong blow. I fell to the ground and could not see anything in front of me. He was most worried about the 6 because he was afraid that something was threatened. He wondered if everything was fine with her. Neural noted that everything was over. Hayakachi suggested that apparently the rest also won, but Neural did not understand what he meant. Shisuko raised his rank, and he was still moving forward to become a tank. A few days have passed. Now our next goal has become hunters for eagles, so we were waiting for new, special training. She was looking forward to the next battle. The guy realized that she really liked the fight. Quietly, almost whispers, she confessed. She likes to kill. He suggested that he first defeat ordinary soldiers' strokes to force their leaders to enter the battlefield. In addition, Shizuka unexpectedly for the eye also wanted to fight against simple soldiers. She dreams of becoming a real tank, so she decided to train in conditions where there are many enemies around to learn to fight under heavy pressure. For her, it was a step towards a tank. Hikachi still couldn't figure out how it all happened. He seeks to protect Shesu. He is ashamed of the previous mistakes, but now he can no longer be mistaken. If it gives it again, it is unknown what can happen to it. Such a gentle girl cannot be in danger. He must do his best to protect her. He appeals to Shizuka to become a shield during the battle, allowing himself to be used to protect others. She finally decided to share her views on battle. Now she would stop her. He only has to monitor the opponent's movements. He can respond in time, but is not yet able to guess their intentions. For example, if the monster deviates to the right, the guy should move to the left before the jump. If he learns to read the movements of the enemy, he will be able to predict his next action. She realized that the first time not everything would work out. Therefore, Shizuko once again said that you needed to train constantly. His movements are already good enough, so he has every chance of succeeding. The priest promised to do everything possible. They have already deprived the lives of one of the leaders of the Eagles. Hikachi turned on his special ability, Divine Speed. Thanks to this technique, the body is wrapped in a red glow, and the speed increases 3 times. However, now the enemy is moving incredibly quickly. Someone tried to reassure Hikachi. However, his enemy owned the same basic techniques as a typical battle bird. Everything will be decided by how accurately he can predict the steps of his opponent. He finally managed to reach his own. The enemy was completely defeated. Neural did not believe in his own eyes. How did he manage to hit the enemy who was racing at such an incredible speed? Everyone immediately noticed that his skills began to develop simply incredibly quickly. He seems to have a real talent. But Heihachi said that the secret of everything was one advice that Shesuke gave him. Some even doubted whether she was a priestess. Shisuya recognized it. Estelle said that Shisuya was teaching better than Nurel, and these words offended Nurel. She suggested that he himself find a new leader of the Eagles, and promised to teach him as strictly as the rest. Hikachi remained dissatisfied, because the extra words of Estelle only complicated the situation. So, Heihachi received a new equipment. Hunting in the forest of soldiers' organs became more familiar. But everyone knew well, It was here that it is best to harden their skills. Someone has put forward the idea to go hunting for Asterios to get a chain. He was ashamed of his sharpness. Neural explained that this is not the monster that was worth the risk. However, everyone came together. With eagles he fought more than once and used to it. Now it's time to meet the first time with a truly powerful monster. Shizuka agreed with this idea, but emphasized that it is not necessary to choose Asterios. She also asked the eye not to load too much. If something goes wrong, she will instantly heal him. Even if he loses his arms or legs while he is alive, she will be able to bring him back to life. However, Heihachi was still not sure of this. He worried about the future battle with this monster. Neural cheered him up. It's time to overcome his fear. He began to collect all the necessary equipment. The Sisyu also had to be alert in case of any unforeseen situations. He wanted to use the lion's heart to not panic. Finally, it's time for revenge. He uncertainly announced the beginning of the battle, but it was noticeable that something was going wrong. Neural wished them success and assured them that in the event of danger, she would inevitably come to the rescue. And Heihachi understood. He should be where there may be danger. Everyone agreed to act in the group. Shizuka assured that they would do everything in their power. He was barely able to hold the enemy. Finally, the monster fell, and Heihachi struck his strongest blow. Thanks to special training, he miraculously was able to avoid this attack. Everyone around the fascination was watched by the fight. It seemed that everything was the best, but in fact it was wrong. At the most important moment, Shizuka managed to save Heihachi, closing him from a deadly blow. However, she did not stop there. The girl immediately got a monster. She is a good and cute priestess that heals everyone who is on her way. But every time Heihachi mentioned it, he pretended that nothing was happening. After all, Susuya is not at all like other priestesses. After a confident victory, she noted with a smile that it was a little bit. She wondered how Heihachi feels and sincerely apologized. I tried not to interfere with his workout and kept myself holding myself. But when she saw the eyepiece beating, she could not stop herself. My body was rushed into battle. Once aka Steel told him that Shizuka was hiding something from him. And now he realized he was guilty of everything. The priestess wanted to ask something, but he worried that she would say it as if it were completely different. It seemed that she did not even try to hide her intention. She wanted to get rid of these two. Neural ate enough and immediately fell on the bed. Heihachi joked that if you lie down after eating, you can look like a cow. The girl just shrugged. It did not bother her. She could eat everything she would like, and remained slim. Estelt secretly envied her, and the guy just invited her to join herself. After a battle with Asterios, a long time took. Heihachi has not stopped training and searched for magic stones to become even stronger. During this time, Shisuba received the rank of S. She apologized for her detained and treated everyone with fragrant tea. Everyone noticed that she was very caring. Heihachi also agrees with this. She is gentle and good, but does not understand why it changes so much during the battle. When he was asked what plans he had for today, Heihachi said that after the priestess joined their team, he decided to try happiness with Gach. I was surprised to remember that I completely forgot about it. But no, it cannot be forgotten about Gach. I said it quite confidently. I just received the notification. Premium ticket. It is slightly different than ordinary. It's simple. If the player makes 11 scrolls in a row, he gets a free ticket to the SSR person or something like. She was disturbed by the fact that it was free. Heihachi advised her not to worry now, but first to play, and then think about it. She disagreed and replied that when you think after, it was too late. She believed that it was better to act, even if you regret it, than to do nothing and regret later. But Nurel did not share that opinion. They first saw what the Occupure really was. Nurel calmly said that there was nothing surprising here. The priestess was surprised at how much energy in it, and Nurel was very surprised how the priestess reacted after all that had happened. They got into work with great passion. As you could guess, the SSR card immediately fell. It became clear at first glance. She only understood how gacha works, but she was surprised how much it was. She realized that she first encountered this. Twilating Guha was incredibly interesting. Nurel was frightened that it was better not to climb. But Heihachi felt, the adventures are just beginning. He has another premium ticket. In front of them were rare chests. She was not happy, and it upset the girl. The double was very scared of Nurel and made her feel anxious. He did not know how to handle it. Both of Nurel looked at the toys that lay in front of them. They said so casually that they were understood at first sight. It was noticeable that they were perfectly understood. It's hard to imagine that it was different. And it was at this moment that the moth crashed from under a pile of toys. One of the girls dreamed of a rabbit, inviting him to approach her. Again, everything was repeated. They could not agree with whom the moth would remain. One of the girls tried to reassure everyone, but in the end it only led to an even more quarrel. He wanted to restrain the girls, but was already rushing around a complete confusion. Everyone was surprised to watch what he was doing, and the guy was only awkwardly silent without deciding to deny. He was asked what he would make. After all, if they join another neural, their power will become even stronger. However, she wants him to choose what he considers the best. Even when he addresses him with this question, she was the first one he called in this world, and all this time remained near him. There is a novel that he knows from the beginning, and there is one that he has only to call. Treating them will not work equally. Perhaps it will give him strength, but he sincerely admitted that only one neural is important to him. That is why he does not want to do it. Others immediately noticed that it was almost like a confession. Sek has no doubt. They get along well with each other. He was a little ashamed. He confessed that he would not be delighted if another like him appeared somewhere. Estelle agreed. In his words, there was really a sense. On the screen of the phone, which Shisaka took, there was a message. It is impossible to call two identical characters. Everyone has finally exhaled with relief. If they knew about it before. She was very scared. Heihachi realized that it could be supported differently. Although she had an alarming feeling, she decided to agree, because it could make her stronger. The merger with the girl's body began. No one could understand what really happened. The girl suddenly pierced a slight tingling throughout the body. She couldn't stop herself. The guy asked her to let go, but she said her body was ready for battle. She goes hunting right now. She just shone from admiration. Heihachi couldn't stop her. Estelle was glad to new forces and said that she liked to feel strengthening. And Shizuka, interested, asked where they were going to go hunting. Today, many people gathered here. Some even surprised to see that they came here this day. They were in front of the Juices team, which they had not met for a long time. The first thing he said was that Estelle was still as sweet here. The girl tried to remember how his name is. He realized that they dislike him, and the reason for this was his own behavior. Therefore, he decided to focus on the girl who was with them in the team. I politely asked her to name and sincerely rejoiced in our acquaintance. She also greeted, and he admired that he was glad. She was alerted by his greedy look. However, the guy began to justify himself, they say. He admires only her beauty. From this she was even more angry. The guy did not look away from her. Meanwhile, his friends, Sumika and Gauss, also named their names. One of them, not noticing Heihachi among those present, decided that he was not present today. Hearing these words, the guy gently put his hand on his shoulder. Everyone thought that a new ally appeared in front of them. However, this situation looked suspicious. Something was not so difficult here, and it was difficult to believe that all this was normal. No one could even imagine that he would appear in such clothes. Only then did everyone become clear. Heihachi decided to be a tank. The idea is, of course, interesting. But is it safe to walk the city so much? However, Heihachi himself did not care about the following questions. He was explained that if he went so aimlessly in the city, it would be worthwhile to seize it quietly and throw it in prison. Heihachi did not even suspect that the situation was so dangerous. Others did not agree too. I even had to remove the helmet. Migir thought that Estelle was very sweet. Estelle smiled back. She was pleased to hear that. But she still suggested that the arms stop, although in fact, Migir did not want to do it at all. Suddenly, she asked Heihachi if he understands what the tank's responsibilities were. He carefully thought that he probably had to just endure pain. But suddenly he realized he does not understand what the tank actually does. He was decided to tell what it means to be a tank. First of all, they explained who was the tank. He looked interested in what happened there. Juices apologized at once. He has a habitual reaction when talking about tanks. They seemed to discuss something interesting. She thought she would also like to talk to him if there was an opportunity. Neural laughed and said she was funny. The administrator noticed that everyone had already gathered. She decided that everyone was busy. She wondered if anyone needed help. She gave an important mission. In some areas, signs of great destruction began to appear. To prevent this from happening, she asks to get rid of monsters. One of the girls asked what a great destruction means. Dice was surprised and did not believe that she did not know about it. There are two types of threats. The first is when an extremely strong monster appears, and the second is when a whole horde of creatures arises, which can cause great trouble. The task is to destroy a group of monsters in the area where stone goblins usually live. To do this, it is best to send levels of level B. That is why she appealed to Juices and the Okurs to take this task. The eye was amazed at how difficult the task was, because two groups were involved for him. The girl reminded that we have recently had strange events with monsters. For example, in the area where Okura has overcome Asterios, reports recently began to receive the appearance of creatures, which should not be there. It turns out that this situation has already happened earlier. The leader of the guild warned this in advance, urging everyone to be careful. Jusis agreed with her and turned to the eye to find out his opinion. He decided that they would also participate in participation. Migir could not believe that she really had to work with Estelle in one team to complete the task. She was certain that the fortune today returned to her face. She was told not to overload herself. Migir was determined to protect Estelle. She could not even imagine that a simple walk would take so much strength, but it brought her real pleasure. Emma knew that Gauss survived, and she wanted to talk to him. She wondered which of the attacks he encountered was the strongest. Talking about his work, Gauss seemed to be much more lively. Migir was happy that she was able to get acquainted with them and demonstrate her strength. Yuri first pressed on the trigger and shot. She dealt with 3 enemies in one blow. No one could imagine that it would end that way. She explained that she acted as usual. Just beat the enemies, not suspecting that those monsters would suddenly explode. Everyone was amazed at what happened. Heihachi noted that there was no such thing before. They did not explode. It seemed that the team began to perceive them as their comrades. Estelle has suggested that they may have become stronger thanks to some reinforcement. Nobody mentions it already, although not so long ago he tried to change his title. Who would believe that it is possible at all? Heihachi chose the Secretary General, because this title gives the best strengthening. At first glance, it seems that he also belongs to the Dais team. It seems to have worked. Neural realized that he conceived something again. If Heihachi guesses, Jusis, along with their team, also went to hunt for rare monsters to get even more magical stones. The larger the team, the more trials arise in the way. Estelle drew attention to how quickly he makes decisions at important points. Shizuka agreed and said it was a great idea. Other participants joined the discussion. They explained that they had just talked about the power of their allies. He was looking forward to a common mission. Jusis said in response that they also liked the idea of cooperation. A few days later, they finally reached the area they need. She was stunned. Now she will have to destroy them all. If there are so many monsters around, their leader would already have to show themselves. It was said that when a group of monsters becomes so great and dangerous that it is called the threat of great destruction, it usually appears in the main one. It is called the leader of the pack. Everyone understood. The main thing is to defeat it. But Jusis warned that it is necessary to take into account possible destruction, because they cannot be ignored. We decided that we needed to deal with them with one strong blow. One of the girls was already going to complete the battle by applying their magic against enemies. Heihachi stopped her, asking not to waste magic in vain, and gave this request to others. I offered to look to the left, and among the goblins we noticed a giant and one red. They look quite rare. He wants to make sure that the stones will fall not only in Jusis, but also in all other enemies. Suddenly, I felt a wave of strong energy. Estelle put magic of support on me. Higo reacted too actively, even Estelle was amazed. Meanwhile, Heihachi said Jusis that they would go first with Nurel, and Higo will be behind with others, and they would be supported. He asked the girls not to be tired because he had high hopes on them. We have begun to bring our plan to life. Everyone realized that help from Estelle is really something extraordinary. It seemed to be the simplest task. Their team was incredibly strong, and it seemed that it was already bordered by madness. After the last battle, Jose had already understood that Nurel was really strong. But he did not even know how much her strength really. He became embarrassed because the Dell realized that she had not yet been able to open up in front of him. I reminded him that the battle was not over. The number of stones collected did not coincide at all. There may have been a reason for this. They called the eye to demonstrate something. In the crowd of terrible monsters, Lord Goblins stood out the most. The enemies have become many times more, and it seems that another chief appeared. They quickly realized that fighting with the two groups at the same time there is no point. It was necessary to move back. Okuri must decide, stay in place or retreat. If they continue to fight, all the main responsibility will lie on them. The priestess has not yet gained any magical stone, and if they retreat now, then the nearest villages can be dangerous. For the first time, they had to meet such a large number of opponents. Jusis and his comrades are already tired. The guy was confused and had no idea how to proceed. He was sure that it would all end. And the novel was worried about whether they could overcome all the difficulties. For a long time, Estelle did not use all the power of her magic, and Sisa perceived it calmly. She just acted as she was necessary. Heihachi decided to fight. They planned to first use the explosive magic of the SIS, and when the enemies diminish, to start the offensive. I asked the girl to give all my strength today. The team had to follow them. She also wanted to go together, but Hachi decided that she was better left behind and helping the wounded comrades. He intended to use the magic of the explosion. Seeing this, Jesus did not hide his surprise. Suddenly, a monster rushed behind him. Everyone asked him to move back and follow the rear. Lord also joined the battle. He strongly threw his spear directly at the enemy. They noticed that they went too far away. The guy was happy because the girl worried about him, although in fact the situation was under control. She asked him to be careful. Heihachi could not stay because the explosion was too strong. He was thrown up. He knew that he would have to fall hard. He desperately tried to stay in the air because he did not want to fall. The rest immediately noticed. The eyepiece actually climbed into the sky. Migir realized that she had to help him. The Delphot also decided to join. Oral decided to save the leader, and this is what made her worry. She ordered to hold firmly because the battle and flight continue. He could not understand how she managed to rise so high. Stella said it was her special skill. If Nurel is so surprised, it is a sign that something important is about to happen. Valkyria Neuralphania has gained a new force. Aura, for 10 minutes, makes all its characteristics 3 times stronger. She received this skill after 2 victories in Gak. They really were fighting when they flew into the air. I returned to him, but I felt that something was left wrong, though so much happened. They discussed what would happen when the skills will end. The guy smiled and said he would now carry her. Everyone stood stunned, and he also stood near them. They watched the Sisa skillfully and easily fights with a monster. It turns out that there is no hope, right? She received the award for skillfully defeating the enemy. In general, it comes out of 40 million branches. She still couldn't believe her eyes. They really were. The administrator explained that there are actually evidence of victory over Lord Goblin, so this amount of the award is quite well deserved. Even after they shared the prey with the Taos team, they still have as much as 20 million branches. This is a real fortune. Neural is convinced that Kurasugai should get everything, but Heihachi stands on his own. It is necessary to divide equally. Jusis disagrees. Without the help of others, he would not cope. But he believes that they were rather a burden, so they deserve not all part. Shizuka laughed and said, "If they were a burden, then who was Heihachi? Who was thrown back? If it weren't for his armor, Estelle's magic would not work." She confidently added that only together they are true. So Heihachi is asked to share and take half, but I decided to stay with them a little. The guy agrees to stay with them temporarily and promises not to touch gold. The team arranges a great celebration in honor of its victory. Estelle is charming that Nurel does not try to eat too much because of a sense of guilt. But the wolf has long been hungry, and Jusis allows her to eat well, how much she wants. He is very grateful to Nurel-san for his salvation, so officially allows the festive feast, eating as much as you want. The girl just shrugs her shoulders. She is indifferent, because she has long stopped counting calories. Meanwhile, Shizuka comes to the eye and asks, "Do you want to drink a glass with me? This wine has been lasting 30 years. Its taste is just incredible." He just smiles and says that he is not very fond of alcohol. She does not retreat. She smiles gently, calls him sweet, and pours a drink. It is imperceptibly fits from behind and gently hugs him. Heihachi is embarrassed, feeling her breasts lightly pressed against his back. Jusis does not notice anything unusual, but others have already made attention to this spectacle. Migir quietly thinks aloud whether she is a priest like a sixth, because it is not only strength, but also lush breasts. Gauss quickly tries to calm his girlfriend. Neural sees how the occupy is embarrassing and blushing, so it quickly distracts Shizuka. "Look there." The gentle and slightly sad look of that guy made Shizuka suddenly feel a wave of jealousy. She hurriedly bounced back and apologized for hugging too firmly. Neural thanked him and then added that he had not dinner yet, so that's a good reason to start now. Personally treat it with food. Heihachi tries the dish and agrees. Really delicious. Neural immediately stretches Migir's plate and says, "There is so much delicious juicy meat here." She rushed to the meat instantly, and all evening passed in a cozy circle of friends. The amount of the account came out 1,150,000. Neural's stomach was complete, as expected. Heihachi wanted to pay only half. But Jusis recalled that last meeting did not behave very well. So this time I decided to be a real man and pay everything himself. Heihachi said it was a worthy act of a real hero. Shizuka realized that it was time to say goodbye. But she knew their adventures were just beginning. Shisaka laughed and said that she would be happy again, Estelle-chan. Estelle, in response, cheerfully waved, they say, hugs today. and so was enough. Friends have not talked so honestly for a long time, so they decided to meet again. Shisaki glad and gladly agreed, and the Sumya promised to train even more to become as strong. It's time to say goodbye. Jusis thanked her sincerely for today. If it were not for the occurrence with friends, everything could end with a real disaster. If something happens, tell me right away, he addressed. Do not hesitate to turn to us for help. We will do our best to support you. Hayakachi confessed that he did not even expect how fun it would go away when he just made his small contribution. Neural, swaying, leaning on the guy. He was strange as she was still on her feet, but the girl was a little magic. You know, sometimes it is not so bad, she said with a smile. Hayakachi thought that healing magic really has a living effect, and their conversation gradually became a topic of alcohol. Estelle laughed at Shisak and said, "Did you create something before, right?" The priestess immediately blushed and began to justify, they say. There was nothing like that. Neural suggested talking until they remember everything they need, even if it lasts until the morning. Shisaka, shouting, escaped, calling all the guilt of treacherous alcohol. When the girls broke up, the eyepiece became fascinated by his phone again. He noticed a message about great submission and receiving the award for his achievements. Those who successfully completed the task immediately received 2 bonuses. The lottery is here again, he said happily. He received 50 magical stones and a discount on rotation. He was upset that the discount works only on 1 stone, so there is no special benefit. So for whom are you ready to sacrifice Estelle? Neural asked mockingly. He is, you greedy. He honestly admitted that he would not lie now. The guy was surprised. He did not suspect that the trophies could be obtained not only through the lottery. It turns out that there are additional events, even mazes. Now he was curious about how this system works. Will you show what is capable of full force? Estelle asked with interest. He recalled the Haikachi festival and decided to share this news with everyone. This time, everyone is allowed to make only 1 rotation. Everyone looks in surprise. There will be no spam like a carnival this time? Estelle does not believe that Heihachi will stop only on 1 attempt. He explains that now the call has become purposeful, and things SSR are no longer as valuable as before, so the event can be missed. But considering it as a special action is the main thing to remember about moderation. Shisaka, this is yours for the first time, Neural reminds. Heihachi says it is worth starting with her. The girl quickly gets a lot of rare things. She tries to keep calm, but she fails. Meanwhile, the Shisho specifically extends your hand to press again. Let me touch a little, she begs, almost crying. It's too cruel if everything is done for the first time. Estelle sees that Shesako is as impatient and stick as Heihachi. After a quick joke, the guy sighs heavily and says, even seconds of rest do not give. Neural just smiles and says, here's what you got into the situation now to complain. Estelle sympathizes with the poor Sisak, but feels the adventures are just beginning. They continued to get new things that could not stop. Only 1 SSR was able to get with Mofa. Shizuka only slightly shrugged. 1 is enough. But Okura assured that they always have at least 1 chance, and this time he will surely help them. It guarantees. Shizuka laughed and said that they would have stopped predicting trouble better. But the guy only replied that she was trusting his power of fate. The girl no longer had the power of cunning, and Heihachi, who had stopped Shisak, and now was tuned to her. They agreed. Everyone has the right to 1 attempt. SSR has already started to fall out, so maybe something is even cooler. Let's try again. He did not retreat. Suddenly the Sisak was grabbed and tied, and the eye was surprised, not realizing what he was punished for. Neural advised to calm down and pause, and Heihachi asked him to give him another chance and solve the ropes. The team asked if it was too easy. Shizuka and even Neural could not understand what the problem was. The frightened guy began to apologize hastily. Estelle suggested giving him freedom, because he assured that he had already understood his guilt. Neural nodded and agreed, okay, solve me. Now she fell to look at the prize won in the lottery. The girls enjoyed delicious sweets together. As you could guess, lottery sweets are delicious, but only 1 piece is allowed to eat. Shizuka sighed with relief, though only 1 SSR was able to get, but they got a module that allows you to increase the home. Haikachi laughed and said, why all this, if we don't even have our own home? Then Neural suggested with a smile, let's just buy our home. Estelle believes that after the great conquest of money is now more than enough. A good opportunity for joy. Haikachi agreed. He did not even imagine that he could have his own home before. In his past life, he lived in a close apartment, so the thought of a great real home seemed to him something strange and unusual. Then we buy, he summed up. Say what I would like to see. I'll weigh your wishes. Suddenly, he realized that for the first time they left with Estelle. He could not understand why it was so significant for him. After all, there were always Nurul and Shizuka. They remained for the first time, without anyone. We went to the realtor. Of all the agents, they chose the one who surrendered to us the most adequate, and others decided to say nothing. He wondered what kind of home they needed. Estelle wanted to live closer to the Guild of Adventures and was looking for a cozy, separate cottage. She asked if there was something appropriate for her. The realtor was explained that the area of housing should be designed for 4 or more people. The mediator undertook to look for different opportunities. The most expensive home was estimated here in 90 million branches. Hikachi shuddered, because in the capital, housing is extremely expensive. Their budget will have to be careful and carefully think. Hikachi thought whether it was worth looking for a house outside the city. There are both quieter and prices lower. He told the girls about his idea, to go to the town of Brunn and find a home there. Hano recalled that they had previously lived in Bruna. Shizuka was never there, so it is a great opportunity to see a new place. They go tomorrow. Nurul trembled, remembering how it shakes in a carriage. Will it happen again? But Heihachi assured, this time he will do without bruises and there will be no punishment. They fly on a magical carpet. Shizuka asked how much the flight would take. According to the atlas, it is just over 2 days. In order not to get off the road, Heihachi will put magical marks all over the route. In fact, the path took 3 days. The wind gave us towards. The first words of Shizuka were, "What a calm and quiet place here." Heihachi also felt here, as if at home. Thanks to the rest of Brunn, the girl got the most pleasant impression, both about the city and about herself. Everyone is very tired, so Heihachi proposes to stay overnight and tomorrow inspect the houses. The realtor inspects a large cottage and says that the house costs 7 million branches and is only 5 minutes from the guild. Compared to 90 million in the capital, it's almost nothing. Nurul is very happy, and thanks for the advice of Estelle. Heihachi invites you to go to the house to look at everything. The house was completely empty. It had no soul. There was neither bed nor furniture in this room, even the bathroom. Only bare walls and floor. It was not possible to get rid of dust everywhere, and in the yard weeds grew up to their knees. Nurul suggested that at first take order, and Estelle without hesitation supported this idea. She wants to remove dust with the magic of wind. Heihachi exclaims, "You will undermine the whole house now." And the girl calmly replies that the situation is under control and nothing wrong will happen. Estelle carefully rubs the windows, and Nurul thoroughly washes the floor so that everything shines with cleanliness. Shizuka pretended that the weeding of the whole yard would have to spend the whole day. While cleaning, Estelle notices something unusual under the boards. She was so frightened by this find that she shouted. Hearing the cry, Heihachi immediately rushes to the girl. Estelle, frightened to death, grabs him by the hand and quietly says, "There, look." A black and fast shadow suddenly jumped out of the darkness. The creature suddenly rushes at all speed. The monster destroys the wall, trying to get to the one that it persecutes. Shizuka grabbed Heihachi by her hand and asked for his help with despair. The terrible creature had already made his way under her clothes. The guy stood in a confusion and did not know that to proceed with this unclean. Finally, he pulled it from the inside. It was a regular cockroach. "You panic," he grunted. "If one is already found, then there is a dozen more nearby." Such a merciless logic. The girls realized that these horrible creatures surrounded them from all sides, and now all hope remained only on Nurul. The cleaning was more difficult than the battle with the boss, and it was completely out of strength. Shizuka breathed heavily and said, "I thought that the cleaning would be simple, and these cockroaches were a real abomination." When the main cleaning was completed, Heihachi suggested increasing the house with magic. "Otherwise, we will spend the night in the race," he said, and turned on the artifact for expansion. The girls watched disappointed, because nothing changed at first glance. Heihachi immediately realized, first you need to exchange gotch submit for points, and then use these points. Thanks to the system, it was possible to exchange items for points and buy various improvements. One room cost 1,000 points, and this price impressed all those present. The price is the same as for 10 SR or 100 R subjects, not at all cheap. "Let's try," Nurul said happily, and Heihachi began to translate resources. They opened a portal through which a new room appeared. Nurul examined everything around and said confidently, "Everything is ready, we have completed construction." Inside, everything was reminiscent of a modern apartment from his past life. It was strange. When they came out, the outer walls remained the same as before. Estelle expressed guess. Perhaps it is a pocket space somewhere inside. Heihachi frightened the idea that the house seems to grow inside it, and others did not even notice it. They decided that this house would now be their new staff. They began to equip space, put furniture, placed shelves and hung lamps. When everything was finally put into place, the guy asked if something else was needed. "Bathroom!" the girls exclaimed together like one. Heihachi installed a new shower, and after the walk, he could not wait to try it first. Women overflowing with excitement quickly exchanged their eyes and rushed to try the bathroom together. Estelle summed up, "The best solution is to buy this house and gladly splashed with water." No one could imagine that even in the bathing Neural would not remove the eye. It turned out that she is shy and removed the scarf only when no one is there. Therefore, Neural feels calm when it remains alone. Shizuka with a smile joked, offering Neural, "Take the bandage and look." The girl did not even suspect that there were many different things to do for new opportunities, so it's time to review her reserves. After bathing, everyone felt perfectly, but Shizuka still turned to Heihachi. "Hey, you will still have time to swim." Here everyone feels so cozy that they already dream of making this place even larger. Estelle said, "Without a few more hook you cannot do. We need to rotate further." Heihachi took Neural's hand and asked with surprise, "Do you want it too?" He guessed that Neural would say, "Let's twist a little," and he was not mistaken. Shizuka finally realized why he was so fond of it and smiled back. Estelle winked and said, "Don't worry, here all together and nothing to be ashamed though." Heihachi, in order not to bring his comrades, promises to find a new place with a rich hunting. This idea is very pleasant to everyone. Neural smiled, remembering all their jokes, and thought, "Sometimes it's so good to have a little fun. But what if their next trick suddenly goes out of plan and get out of control? Moreover, because a new event is waiting for us." Heihachi opens the menu and says, "Let's look at the card." A detailed map of the terrain around appears on the screen. It is felt that something is not right here. The tips just rush into the eye. It remains only 2 days before the event is completed, and mistakes will be guaranteed, so it is impossible to delay. Estelle is anxious that Heihachi does not do something reckless in the grave of emotions. It is simply impossible to miss such an adventure with treasure. It is worth it. The risk is quite justified. According to the rules of Quest, 2 adventurers should win 10 goblins. One of them is dissatisfied with grunting. But let's deal with them for a once or twice. Today, there is some strange anxiety in the forest, but my partner reassures me, saying that there is nothing unusual about it. The goblins finally appeared. It's time to take battle. However, no one has managed to go through this mini-raid to the end. At this point, the registrar warned Mr. Gurin with the words, "Be careful." It was then that his call to the hall. He could not even imagine that one day he would see the eye again. During the conversation, he learns that the guy now lives here, and his team has both a magician and a priestess. So there was even more beauty. Gurin asks in surprise, "Where did you meet such a beautiful lady?" The eye blushed and answered a little uncertain, "We just met." Gurin addresses several questions. Have they seen something strange lately? If so, it's better to say right now. Okura specifically asks, "It's about those strange goblins?" For the first time, Heihachi learns about goblins, which differ from others. It causes his curiosity and becomes the beginning of a new puzzle. Goblins have already learned to use swords, meadows, and different other weapons. They are increasingly attacking adventurers, so it is better to bypass their forest. But it only confirms for the eye. This is the place he was looking for. Everything that happens completely coincides with the tips from the phone. This is a real quest of mutations. The team climbs into the sky on the carpet and rushes directly to Goblin Fest to find out what happened there. Neural notes that he has been in a hurry to solve all the difficulties lately, as if he was catching up with him. It is said that the guild has already sent a team of scouts B. If they close the task earlier, the prize will be the Heihachi. Shizuka jokes, asking if he is not greedy. The guy became aware that he really just wants to get a fair reward, though he is inconvenient to talk about it. In fact, he does not for his own benefit. But it is difficult for him to admit it. The forest again reminded Neural of his past defeat. Heihachi still regrets those times, and Shizuka is only happy to go on a new journey. Meanwhile, Estelle evil under the nose, cursing the entire forest mosquito. The goblins are not visible anywhere, and Neural is already beginning to think whether they really exist. Shizuka guesses that they could get lost in the forest, but suddenly notice that something is quiet behind them. They look around, there is no one, but there was already a goblin gun. Shizuka has time to warn Estelle in time about the threat. The arrow was only hung near when the Estelle managed to pull the side at the last moment. They found another goblin armed with a sword. The rumors were true. Looking at the phone, Heihachi notices how the goblins run away. Apparently he goes to his den, he says. The team decides to follow this to find out. Neural captures many signals. Enemies are nearby, that is why they were here. She proposes to climb into the hole, and somewhere far beyond their actions is already monitored by an unknown figure. Heihachi lights a bright magic lantern to better see the way in front of him. The girls look at the move and think who could dig it. Norel worries that the ceiling is about to collapse. In the darkness, the heroes again attack goblins. They kept together for a while, but suddenly everything changed. Monsters started creating a magical charge. It turns out that among the enemies there is really a sorcerer. That is what we were warned. Conclusion. Before us, black goblins are a rare and special kind. Shizuka notes that there are powerful magical stones nearby and decides to start hunting. The opponents were weak. Their armor could not stand our blow. Even Heihachi was amazed at how quickly the team dealt with enemies. They raced through them, like a real hurricane. Without wasting time, they rush forward to catch up with the fugitive charm. The trail leads to a mysterious dungeon. Neural notes that the walls are similar to classic dungeon, so real adventures are just beginning. The team almost lost hope, because it seemed that there was no way out. Suddenly Magblin pressed the hidden lever, and magical runes were shining around them. The bright rings locked them around, as if they formed a cage, and the goblins did not hold back the victorious noise. Their joy was shot out. Everything changed in an instant. The circle disappeared, and the monsters froze, looking in surprise. In a moment, the mysterious shadow coped with everyone. The goblins did not even have time to say anything, as they were defeated. Someone whispered with admiration, "The lord of the incredible power of Gachi, chosen by the gods themselves." After the teleportation, Heihachi and Sayaka fell on the cold stone floor of the dungeon. The girl fell directly on the boy, and at first did not understand what happened. Having come to her senses, she hurriedly stood up, completely blushed with shame, and immediately began to apologize. Heihachi became very embarrassed. He almost fainted with shame, but Shisaka suggested not to mention it and to find out where they got. Then he realized that Norel and Estelle was gone. The teleport divided them and scattered them in different places. I was going to install a lighthouse, but all the resources were over. Then I mentioned a portable right for long distances. The respondent's auto answer was not able to emotionally that the subscriber is not available at this time. Shisaka reassured everyone, saying that the girls are strong in spirit and everything would be fine with them. Yes, you guessed it. We are talking about Neural-san and Estelle-san, Keikachi confirmed, and took a deep breath. She apologized too. She was scared and said she was ready to start the search. She also promised to protect the Akure-san. In the next tunnel, Neural sounded his comrades with anxiety, trying to find them. They decided to disperse in different directions, but the radio again did not make any sound. You need to find them as soon as possible, Estelle whispered, in a hurry for a guy who is constantly falling into some stories. Suddenly, a huge boulder rolled at the girls, tearing away stones from the ceiling. At this time, Heihachi and Shisaka realized how they lacked Norel and Estelle, and became very lonely without them. The guy often did not believe in his own strength, although he really fought. Shisaka realized that he listened much more than he himself guessed. She felt that he was still not sure of himself, and that is what he restrained his strength. In her imagination, she heard he said strongly, "I will protect you." She really wanted to hear these words, but Heihachi understood. In fact, Shisaka was stronger. She smiled and said quietly, "I'm a girl too, and I need support." The guy was blushed, because never before no one said so much that he was silent because of his shyness. The girl laughed cheerfully and said that everyone would forget about sad thoughts and moved forward. Suddenly, in the dark corridor, it was thundering. Someone or something great began to approach. No one even hoped to meet any of the people here. The figure looked suspicious. It was clearly not a demon, most likely, an adventurer of rank B who was sent to investigate. The stranger bent down and said quietly, "Take this mask full of abyss as the gift of Logos." His words were spooky and mysterious. Shizuka did not understand what he wanted to say. The stranger in his dreams saw the abyss of Pandora's treasures and the Devil's Eye, which can give rise to the Legion of God. He predicted that the soul of the sinners would drop the darkness that would bring them destruction. Your creatures will disappear, becoming victims. He hung up, enjoying the horrible picture he created himself. The girl could not understand what exactly in these strange threats. Heihachi was felt by what happened to Neural and Estelle, so he suggested going on. Shizuka supported this idea. They apologized to the stranger, explaining that they had urgent cases and were forced to move on. He immediately imposed a spell that almost tore the body of Heihachi into pieces. Shizuka healed him instantly. The guy came to her senses, although he was still shocked. Heihachi was increasingly annoyed. He immediately noticed that this man was not at all like an adventurer. He was really concerned that this stranger was clearly not a member of the guild. Shizuka strongly rushed at the attack, but a girl suddenly appeared in front of her, as if she had erupted from the air, and stopped her. Hikachi seemed to have seen this stranger's face somewhere. She rebuked the master for going through when he acted on her own. In response, he said that she had gone out of her way. Shizuka warned Hikachi, "This girl is not simple. She belongs to the core of the maidens. That is, it is a character of the same type as the sixth." At this time, monsters were scratched everywhere in the dark corridors of the maze, but the girls coped with them confidently and skillfully. Neural and Estelle had to run quickly, because behind them a large boulder rolled along the corridor. Suddenly, Estelle remembered that Shizuka was familiar with that girl. This is Sylve Rock, an extremely rare female core hero. Hikachi remembered how many stones he spent when he tried to get Sylva. "Don't even ask if I was lucky." He waved his hand. "If Sylvie is next to this guy, then he probably is also a gravity, as well as Hikachi." The guy realized his enemy also received an invitation and came into this world for his purpose. So, it is clear that he hunts magical stones and wants to pick them up. The stranger proudly informed that as long as Guild Gonizas exists, all Arcadia under the rule of the Master. Salva said that not only this maze, but all the treasures of the world belonged to him, and prepared for the battle. Hikachi was angry, and exclaimed that no one could decide for others who should get. He decided to deal with the brazen directly at this place without delaying for later. Sylvie immediately bounced sideways, avoiding the first blow, and the battle immediately broke out with new force. Both girls rushed to each other at the same time to decide which one is stronger. Hikachi said confidently, "Now I'm going to fight with her. Your time is a little rest." Shizuka helped him more than once, so now he wanted to thank her very much. But the stranger effortlessly lifted the guy and threw him up, as if it were a light toy. Hikachi was amazed. There was an extremely strong opponent in front of him, and he even thought, "Is he a magician?" Meanwhile, the girls' duo and Sylvie came together in a fierce duel, sharing powerful blows with each other. Shizuka realized that Sylvie was really an opponent, but it was not easy to break the priestess. It used healing to get rid of all wounds. Sylvie intended to quench her rival she constantly struck, hoping that she would eventually spend her manu completely. Hikachi realized that his enemy was also using Gotch Relic, so he decided to apply his own. I used the wind bracelet, but even then there was only a weak scratch on the foreigner. The opponent has already quietly and seamlessly created his own territory. A real field full of traps. The guy did not notice how everything happened. Suddenly, there was a powerful explosion that stunned everyone around. Shizuka quickly ran to the glasses to make sure that everything is well with him. She felt 2 mana at the trap. Her strength immediately doubled. Estelle and Norel have just got out of a stone trap that was deep underground. A pit with thorns? It's terrible. Estelle shuddered with fear, and Norel realized that they had already gone too far. The girls were very worried about their friends, but they deeply believed that they did not give up and cope with everything. On the battle of Shizuka and Sylvia, they did not cease to face the duel. Each of them struck each other. Suddenly, a spark jumped out of the wall. The seal began to crumble. Hikachi realized that although not very strong, he should still stand up for Shizuka. The girl had healed herself, but a torn clothing on her chest was so confused by Heihachi that he did not know where to take his eyes. The foreigner mocked the so-called unrestrained power of the boy and ordered Sylvie to remove all the restrictions. Shizuka suddenly felt the alarming shift and immediately became vigilant. From the darkness, something unusual began to appear. It did not resemble the magic of Sylva. No one could understand what the creation was. Shizuka wondered, how could it be in the goblin maze? She turned to Hikachi and warned, "The real danger is yet to come." Suddenly, it turned out that he was a goblin giant, who by his power is not inferior to a hippo. Shizuka suggested that the armistice? "Let's first combine the forces and we will defeat the monster together, and then we will solve our disputes." "It's time for revenge," he decided Hikachi and activated his punitive regime. Sylvie, along with the master, hastily retreated, leaving the boy and the girl himself on himself with Goblin Behemoth. "What are the cowards?" the guy thought, indignant. Shizuka quickly pretended, "The monster attack, 4,500, which is 1.5 times more than in Sylva." She understood right away. "We need to run." They were on the verge of their forces after a heavy battle, while the monster looked completely intact. To go to him meant to doom himself to death. The hippo-goblin broke tunnels so easily as if they were made of cardboard. "How long will he go to us after the trail?" Shizuka breathed. Everyone understood. It will not be possible to escape from him. It should be stopped. The armor on it is very strong, 9,000 units. Without magic, not to punch it, so it is necessary to aim directly at Goblin himself. Hayakachi confessed that the wind brace is not strong enough. Arrows released from the bracelet were constantly flying past the target. Then, Shizuka asked to aim more carefully. Suddenly, around the corner, something loudly shook. Maybe it's Neural and Estelle, they thought, and immediately ran to the noise. However, the girls also did not notice where the boys went. Shizuka muttered, "This monster is stubborn like a donkey." She did not know how much they would have to run away from him. She looked very tired, and Heihachi did not go from her head one question. Will I be able to protect it? At that moment in my mind, the idea came up. To try to distract the attention of the monster. He said, I will try to lure him, and at this time you will put dynamite. If the Shizuka uses all its magic gunpowder for explosives, we will have a chance. She asked excitedly, Will you not die? Heihachi reassured her, I will not fall from one blow. But he hesitated in his soul. His candid words were taken off the girl and forced her to get lost. You said exactly what I was waiting for, Shizuka whispered, blushing awkwardly. She took magical dynamite and prepared for action. Heihachi gathered with the spirit and rushed to distract the giant. He intercepted a huge paw, stopped a blow, and called out loud, Shizuko, hurry! The girl flew up like a smart cat and struck the explosives directly into the monster's mouth. Here's a gift for what was chased after me. The explosion broke the corridor, and Shizuka immediately understood. Everything was finished. The task was completed. In her thoughts, there was only one question. Why did you get such a danger? Heihachi calmly explained that there was no other choice in them. Shizuka noted that it was risky, but worked. Hearing the explosion, Neural and Estelle quickly found them. Neural remembered how she once found herself in the same difficult situation. Fortunately, then everyone remained alive, and she thanked the gods for it. Even Shizuka barely held on her feet when Neural wondered who these two were in the cloaks. Shizuka only shrugged and said she didn't know. But they were constantly talking about some treasures. Heihachi received a notification from the system, and his face became serious at once. A new threat was waiting for him. The quest was unexpectedly recognized as failure. Someone else who was also a player closed this event. The anomaly and labyrinth of goblins simply disappeared. The foreigner could not hide his joy. Now the Legion of the Renaissance approached another step. It turned out that the anomalous quest immediately disappears as soon as someone fulfills it. Shizuka thought. It turns out that these two took away all the awards. She promised that the next time they would no longer escape. The foreigner dreamed of new fascinating quests and even stronger gacha representatives. He collects a perfect team, and together they will remove all the rivals from their way. Heihachi smiled with distrust and said, So the thieves always say. The anomalous quest ended in failure. No awards received the participants. Now all you have to do is find out where the two came from. Heihachi mentioned, as Sylvia said, all the treasures of this world belong to the master. Their intentions remain a mystery. But they will still meet. Especially after they took away all the trophies while he was busy with the battle with a hippo. The most annoying was that the opponent was able to knock down Silva, and Heihachi remained in the game. With this mood, I only wanted to twist the grandeur. It was at this moment that notifications came. Finally, the long-awaited event began. Neural drew attention to the fact that the eyepiece again behaves a little uncertain and nervously. Estelle wondered, What happened this time? Your look is even sad than usual. The guy looked at the phone screen, studying the rules of the event carefully. The girls could not understand why everyone was so seriously perceived by this Granu. He explained to this is Full Gacha. If you collect all special items from the list, you can get a super prize. In his world, such pranks were so dangerous that sometimes even the government was forced to intervene. Once upon a time, he succumbed to this temptation. Again and again, he fell the same things. Even when he used a magic card, the expenses only increased. In the end, he had no money left even for food. Shizuka did not fully understand what was being about, but the words Fulel Gash made her be interested. Estelle suggested not to interfere. Heihachi has almost agreed with this idea, but Luna-chan appeared at the right moment. Once he tried to get the man-chan, but he failed. And now you can get it just for the full grace. To miss this opportunity, a real crime. With 9,000 stones on the account, you can make 15 times on 11 scrolls. She was the first to try her hand at Shizuka. Everyone put great hopes on her. Heihachi was convinced that this time Luna-chan would certainly meet. The first attempt did not bring success. Shizuka never found the right thing. The girl sighed with disappointment. I also spoiled everything, as you do, Okurdano. The guy calmly replied, I'm still a little more lucky. Shizuka at that moment thought that if you act the same, then the result would be the same. On her second attempt, Shizuka finally received one of the things she needed. Neural was lucky than ever. She got both the necessary lots. Hikachi said exciting that Neural is just incredible. In response, Shizuka, a little jealous, jokingly said that even tea from that dirt on her feet to drink to get such good fortune. So 3 of the 5 things have been collected. It is only necessary to find a SR subject and 1 SSSR a year. Estelle reassured me, they say. There is no point in worrying. The rotation of the drum brought incredible success. Never lost. Hikachi smiled and joked, it seems as if the whole universe turned into a happy artifact. In addition, Manhwa was able to find the right thing only on the 4th attempt, and that was so struck by the guy that he did not stop admiring and pouring compliments. Shizuka struck Heihachi gently because he hugged the rabbit too much. Now there is only a special room, out of time and space, known as SSSR. Hikachi Q. 4 packages were prepared for her, and each has 11 rotation attempts. He was convinced that the victory is already in his hands. Now everything will be simple, soon we will cover this carnival. But on the first attempt, he received only a fiery artifact in the form of a glove. Shizuka still claimed that it also matters. Hikachi noted that this was the case before. It was a repetition. I could not imagine that the same subject would fall twice in a row. He encouraged himself with the idea, the next time I will cope. To twist everything perfectly, without any mistake, seemed to be incredible. And there were only 3 attempts ahead. The second and third attempts also ended in receiving duplicates. The nerves were already on the verge. Estelle finally realized why her brother was so afraid of Fulagachi. Heihachi had already suspected that his luck had failed, but he had another attempt. He is most afraid that even in this world he will not be able to meet the Manchan, so no one thought to retreat. The expected SSR rap suddenly gave a completely different object. Silence fell in the hall. Hikachi exclaimed, "Where did my Moonchan go?" Neural reminded that the stones were already over, but the guy was still pleading. "Let's try another time." He was simply torn from emotions. He almost fell into hysteria. Estelle suggested gathering a strategic meeting. Shizuka summed up, "If there are no stones, then the game no longer lasts." But Hikachi confidently said that in the next 5 days, again will collect the required number of stones. Neural quietly suggested that perhaps it is better to retreat, but the guy only replied, "We have already done so much. To retreat already late." So, the plan is simple. We work for exhaustion, and we do not stop until it is desirable. The team breathed a lot but agreed. If he made such a decision, then we will support him. Ahead of us will be 5 days in search of stones, and there is another opportunity to meet Luna Chan. Neural sighed and said, "Are you still not enough after so many times?" "I no longer have the strength the marathon is not able to do." Heihachi reassured everyone, saying, "We have learned from mistakes, and now we have a clear plan of action." He explained that newcomers will also be able to collect stones, and the team will follow the calculation of the extracted. I introduced everyone. Alumino and Camilla are their pets. Hikachi was glad, seeing his wards, newcomers, for whom he answered. He believed that it was true happiness. Asking these people to destroy the black orcs seems to be something unusual, but for them it is an easy thing. Hikachi added, "We have our motives, so please, agree to take this task." Shizuka advised to ask for official permission from Grinsan. When people are more, the pharmacy goes faster. But if someone extras a monster, the stone does not fall out. It has already been checked with the Taos team. So while we work on our own, everyone decided together. We return to how it was before. Shizuka still approved this idea and promised to attract Grinsan for convenience. The terrain was cloudy. Everywhere the pits, and in the air hung an unpleasant smell. Here is a real cube of the monster. If you touch, they will attract a whole flock. Neural waved her hand. She was convinced that the night was powerful. It will only count something when the black orcs appear. Hikachi was the first enemies to themselves, while others took advantage of it and achieved them. The punch of the orca was so strong that the guy did not restrain himself and surprised. Shizuka noted that all this is due to the strengthening of Estelle. Its support adds confidence. He nodded, agreeing. Estelle is really impressive. The stones were almost not poured. If you kill several people at the same time, the production does not increase. Camilla reached out to Heihachi, showing him a ring. The seal of the keeper shone on her fingers, and Heihachi could not believe her eyes. Camilla, she shouldered her shoulders easily. She received recently. It matters? The guy suddenly realized, this is the gacha pass. How could beginners have such a cool thing? So the croutons use the time of commands for their own purposes. Illumino said that decorations have magical properties, and the boys wanted to test their action in practice. Heihachi was surprised that they had such equipment, but they did not stop and continued to hunt. The task is to get as many stones as possible. Alamino confidently dealt with the monsters, demonstrating how much they gave his workout. Finally, the stones became noticeable. Their number began to increase rapidly. The deeper they moved, the more often the black orcs began to appear from the tunnels. So, the team came up with a new way to get stones quickly. Until the end of the full gachi remained only 4 days. A real marathon for the extraction of magical stones began. The team was steadily turning guha, looking and collecting new stones in parallel. Shizuka noticed that the eye was very tired and it was alarmed. It's been a few days. The stones fell often, but the last subject never appeared. There was almost no strength, Hayakachi thought. But here Neural reminded him, "You promised that you would save me." Suddenly sparks began to pour from the ceiling. Something unusual happened to it. She was ready to set fire to the entire forest with the monsters, and asked, "Do you happy?" Gaichachi tried to reassure his girlfriend, but Estelle insisted, "We need to destroy even more." Shizuka asked Neural to take Estelle back to the camp, and they will already do everything else. The last day of the hunt was calm and passed without any serious adventures. Estelle apologized because she wanted to do his best, but eventually she only prevented. Heihachi said he had to apologize because he did not see how she was tired. It is time to move according to the plan. There are 150 stones left on the account. This will be enough for 3 multi-perugers. Neural and Moth became the happiest who tried luck first. The girl begged hot that this time everything would be over. Heihachi sighed and said, "If they can't handle, then who can?" Neural remembered that she had long warned that it was worth stopping, but now it is too late to change something. The guy could not understand why everyone was looking at the end of the world. Shizuka's optimism surprised everyone around them. She reminded them that they still had hope. Heikachi left only one repeated scroll, but the last package remained patiently waiting for its turn. He suggested that Shizuka try. The girl did not expect such trust, but the guy confidently said, "I trust you." Although intuition told him that it was she, Shizuka remembered that she had never won SSR. She suddenly realized that her usual confidence leaves her, and it is time to finally be revealed. She nodded and strongly said, "Okay, let's see what I am capable of." Estelle also agreed. "If you are a 6th time with us, we will definitely succeed." The brother's words only strengthened her confidence. Heihachi remained the only one who kept calm and still believed in a miracle. He said that if this time he is not lucky, then it will be our common defeat, not just him. But suddenly Shizuka interrupted his words. She pressed the scroll stop button. Finally, a room fell from another dimension. The whole team immediately felt the joy that was waiting for so long. Waking up, Shizuka saw Heihachi unrestrained in the house. In the morning, he put the house in order, rubbed and cleaned everything so the house was now not recognized. The girl asked to stop and call Luna-chan as soon as possible. But before that, she wants to do another business. It is better to cause a moon in a new room, so no one will see it in the house. Finally, the moment the moon girl will be called, an error message appeared on the phone. Heihachi explained that if you use the cost discount, then they will be able to invest in the set limit. Now you need to decide who is to apply this thing. If it was a spell, great. Shizuka thanked, although the guy did not understand why she was so happy. Neural and Estelle are surprised, because for the first time they see a true call. Luna-chan appeared, and Heihachi immediately ran to her to say hello. The girl called him frightening, and it offended him because he tried to make a good impression. After that, Estelle and Neural also named their names. Camilla revolted the conversation with jokes, hoping that it would help all become friends. The moon whispered quietly by Heihachi, "What happens to this?" and cast a wary look at the 6. Estelle quietly said that something strange was happening with the 6th. Shizuka tried to make friends with Mu, but the moon felt hostility, pushed the girl, and strictly forbade her to approach. The moon girl stated loudly, "She is my enemy!" Shizuka was confused. She does not understand what she could offend the moon, and even Heihachi does not know what the reason is. He tries to reassure himself, thinking that over time they will get better. He suggested that Looney stroll with Bruno, but she categorically refused. She firmly said that she would not go with the So because he does not like sunlight. And when it came to hunting in the caves, she also categorically refused. Hunting confessed to the team, "I do not like to fight." Heihachi thought that she would stay away because of this, but he was wrong. The moon said she would keep the house, and then added that she was going to sleep now, and asked everyone to leave the room. Everyone was surprised. Did the new ally really decide to stay home all the time?